Like in just 1 month, to make such a leap is crazy, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like stupid. I noticed the more I get to this place of centeredness,
Yeah.
like my sex drive went really, 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 really down.
If I'm in relationship with you, I'm not actually in relationship with you. I'm in relationship with a version of you that lives inside my head. And that version may not actually be in sync with who you actually are.
They're walking flesh robots.
Walking flesh robots.
Yeah, so there's like a little 5-year-old that's like, move forward, move backward,
Yep.
go sideways, go to that point.
Get sex.
Dude,
Get sex.
yeah, go sex. Okay, eat. And then like literally just like walking and like oh, 5-year-old see this. And I love what you said, which is it's not about like denying the 5-year-old, but it's about having a conversation. And again, Kurt, I want to say thank you because your stuff is really powerful. Because I would have slept today. Really feel warm and gooey and stuff. It's so cool. Thank you.
My name's Kirby, and I basically organized this event, and I've got two of my wonderful friends with me. Over here, we have...
Alex.
Look at the camera, Alex.
Oh, the camera's this way. Hi, Alex. So you're looking at that, I'm looking at this.
Yeah,
right?
I'm looking at this one. You're looking at that one, and she's looking at this one.
Oh, that's a camera too.
This is the camera too. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. So,
I'm Alex.
and then my friend.
I'm Rahel.
Ah, lovely. And you're from? Where are you from?
I'm from Switzerland.
Okay. And where are you from, Alex?
Tanzania.
And I'm from America. So we're here in Bali, melting pot of the world, and we're having a talk about. Well, we don't know yet, but we're all interested in childhood trauma and relationship stuff. So we'll see where it goes.
Great.
All right. What were we talking about earlier? Oh, the hypervigilance and learning things. And that, so you guys seem to be impressed that I have all this gear and I know all these things. And I have collected this stuff, but it's one of those things that like, I want to do something and then I see a step to get there and I say, I don't know how to do that. And now we've got the internet. And so I go and I watch a couple of videos and I read a couple of things. And if I've got any gear with me, I try a couple of things. And I don't do it deeply. I just do it enough to be like, okay, I have a general idea of how that works and what the key issues are here. And then it just goes in my brain and it stays there. And it's like, okay. And so I have that about so many different topics. It's ridiculous. And yeah, so.
What does it have to do with hypervigilance?
Well, so for me, my definition of hypervigilance, or the way that I see hypervigilance, is that when the young child brain is in a situation where there is chaos, or unpredictability, probably coming from the caregivers or primary attachment figures. And what happens is that at some point during these waves of uncertainty or chaos or whatever, there's these low points. And in the low points, the child feels a bunch of negative emotions. And then the system, we recoil we pull back from negative emotions. So the child brain pulls back from negative emotions and says, I don't ever want to feel that again. And then they realize that there's a cause and effect relationship between things. And then all this blood flow goes to the portion of the brain that deduces cause and effect relationships. I just heard a study about this 2 weeks ago where they're saying that they've got brain imaging evidence of children that are basically parentified early, is that's kind of what's going on, is that their brain had to kind of mature faster outside the normal realm of, basically just mature faster than a normal child brain. Because you're trying to figure all this stuff out. You're trying to figure out all these cause and effect relationships. And theoretically, if that starts early enough and your brain has the capacity for it, maybe if you're eating enough sugar, the brain is scanning this larger and larger net of events. Because it's just like, well, that's not the thing that made dad hit me. Maybe that is. And then you start tracking these things and it's like, oh, when this happens and that happens. And this is the way I see it now, is that if that happens enough during the developmental period of the brain, that becomes the brain's primary survival strategy, which I describe as hypervigilance. And I'm describing my childhood. I was always tracking more information than anybody around me. And it wasn't like, because they say that the subconscious is always tracking that stuff, but somehow I had it accessible, that like I could be having a conversation with someone, and then like if I needed to know with the guy over here behind me on my right what he was putting on his tray at lunchtime, that was accessible to me. And I was just like, I don't know how that got there, but it did, and now I have it, and it goes into the big matrix of decision making, and there it goes. Yeah, so
Wow, that's how you are with attachment styles as well, I feel.
Yeah.
Like you are such a vessel of knowledge. And
well,
good.
survival strategy.
Right, now we know why. He's not really brilliant. He's just coping.
Yeah, exactly. I'll accept that. I mean, if it changes lives and help people have a better, yeah, I'll accept that. I'm not brilliant. I'm just coping.
So I have a question about that.
Yes.
So how come if me and my sister, we had the same parents.
Right.
How come we are very different in sense of attachment style? Because the parenting style was the same. Like we all got the same neglect or whatever stuff I got in my
Right.
childhood. How come one is dismissive, the other one is fearful, the other one is how come we adopted different attachment style to the same caregivers, or were the parents subconsciously treating us differently and that's how we adopted a different style?
Yeah. That's a fantastic question, and it comes up a lot, and I don't know if anybody has a great answer for it. I mean, there's different theories. The one that kind of resonates with me at the moment, and for a little while, is the idea that like humans have this tendency to take a vastly complicated sequence of events in life and reduce it down to a label or a theme, right? And say, oh, well, my parents were neglectful towards me the same way they were neglectful for my brother. But when you get to the minutia, like the individual experience, that's not true at all. And the brain is learning based upon the individual experience, not the overall pattern, at least at that stage, right? Does that make sense? And so it's like, so you're the oldest, right?
The middle one.
Oh, you're the middle one. Okay. So one child comes along, and then there's all this stress because so many things are new to the parent, right? Well, the next child that comes along, it's like the parents know how to do diapers, and they know how to put you down, put you to bed early, and they know how to do whatever, right? They know all these things. That alone will change the dynamic because instead of mother coming in, let's say you're like 6 months old, instead of mother coming in and you're crying and she picks you up and she's got this kind of systemic nervous system confusion or fear that I'm going to do it wrong, right? This is on the first child. Then that child is seeing mom is afraid when I have big emotions, and that cause and effect thing happens again, and says, oh, when I cry out, mom shows up, but she shows up fearful. And now I want to go towards her, but she looks at me with fear, and now I want to pull away. And so that alone is a massive difference during the early stages of the child brain, right? And so then the next one comes along, and mom's like, oh, I know how to do this, right? And she shows up, and then she's like, da-da-da-da-da, and, holding the baby while she's making her ugali. Ugali. Yeah. Do you know what ugali is?
No, it ends in Hindi.
Well, it's kind of all over the East Africa, but it's like ground up corn, boiled until it makes this paste. It's like imagine a giant. Yeah, it's like no, like it looks like pizza dough. Like imagine like a giant pile of pizza dough that's made out of corn, and you just like grab it with your hands and they play with it and squish it, and they love it, and foreigners hate it. Yeah, it is. I mean, it feeds mouths, right? So anyway, so mom's sitting there holding the baby, and she's making her ugali, and then different thing. Her life, mom's life, is different, right? She's got another child. Maybe there's maybe dad's got stress. Maybe mom's got stress. Maybe there's the grandparent was there. Maybe they're not. Maybe they've moved. Maybe that shape of the house or an animal. I mean, there's all these specific details, and that, at least that's the way that it maps out in my mind, is that the child brain is sitting here looking out and being like, what the F is going on? And then an individual event happens that is scary. And that's because memories go into the system with emotional intensity. The amount of emotional intensity you're feeling in the moment determines how important that memory is. And so you can have two children that have the same parents. They can even be twins, right? And they can be twins, same parents, same household, but one of them gets something scary in a moment and the other one doesn't. And depending upon, if they have lots of data in their brain to compare it against, the intensity of that scary thing will be less. But if my brain's empty and I have very few experiences to compare it against, and I have a big scary moment, like, a vase falls out off the top of the counter and crashes at my feet, and now it terrifies me. Those children can diverge at that moment, right? And one of them will have this jittery, fearful thing based upon the associations in that moment, and the other one's just like, what's your issue, right? And now multiply that times a million experiences, and then I think that's kind of what gets us to all being unique humans. That's one theory. I'm not saying it's right, but it is a theory that to me makes sense. And when I look at this stuff through that lens of like, here's a child brain that's relatively empty of information, it does not have a big data set to compare it against. I can't put anything in perspective, right? I can't put anything in perspective. That a moment is very meaningful for me. And if it happens before 2, well, now it's in the system and I don't remember it anyway. It's just part of my nervous system, right? It's a part of my threat detection system, deep down. Now, if that point of fear is a major attachment figure, like a person in my attachment constellation, like mom or dad or brother or grandma or something, and that major point of fear is also the place where I'm genetically or instinctively programmed to seek safety, well, now we've got a mess, right? Which is literally, this is one of the things they say is behind the disorganized attachment style, is that like the child's like, I'm reaching for the thing of safety, but that thing of safety doesn't feel safe. And now, at 6 months old or a year, the child has this inner turmoil, and they said creates. There's people that say that is one of the roots of so much of the attachment wounding, is that right there alone, is that mom's supposed to be safe and she doesn't feel safe. Now what do I do? Because it's like I have to stay clinging onto this thing, otherwise I die. But when I cling onto it, it feels terrifying or something unsettling or uncomfortable. And just think about your own lives, and I think about my life, the number of times I've been in relationship and I've had this turmoil. And I'm like, I want you close. I want this connection with you, but it sure doesn't feel good. And,
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I have a question there. In the past, I read more about avoidant and anxious and secure attachment style, and then lately I'm more reading about disorganized, and they define it exactly like this. Okay. Primary caregiver is the source of love and the end of also unsafety, of fear or threat. And I was thinking, but that's the case for all the other insecure attachment styles as well, right? Love doesn't feel safe for you. So I wonder what the difference is there.
Yeah, that's a great question. I started when I was 2017, so I guess that's 7 years ago. And I was totally into that, like the labels, the anxious, preoccupied, dismissive, avoidant, fearful, avoidant, which is also called disorganized. And I was really into that, and the way that it was, because it does do a good job of predicting. Like if we assess you as anxious, we can predict a lot about your behavior. But as I continued on in my research, I kind of started letting the labels go, because I said, this thing that we're talking about, this inner turmoil of like, I want connection, I want love, but this is unsafe. To me, That is really the root of it, and what we're seeing as anxious or fearful strategies to deal with that inner fear, right? And so it's like, okay, so, and what do we know about strategies? If you get a strategy that works, you use it, right? And I think that's true for everyone. And so someone, like, at some point in time or along the line, they've got this fear, they use some kind of adaptive or some kind of avoidance strategy, and that helped them achieve regulation and felt safety. And there's like, that's it. And it's like, double down, double down, double down. Why would I ever try anything else? This one works. Yes. Right. And so, I mean, there's probably people that have a different view of that. And I would be very curious to hear their view. Because I'm not saying, but to me, it makes sense when I go underneath the labels, and it's just like, okay, so say you're avoidant, big whoop, right? That just means we have a collection of strategies that you use. Why do you use those strategies? What's the thing that happened right before you reached for that strategy? What happens if we take that strategy away? That's the thing that I've been doing a lot lately. The whole make the list of your numbing agents and then abstain, is that it's like, if we take your coping mechanism away simply by saying you just sit for 30 seconds, what happens? What do you feel? And then that, so far, for a year now, that reliably begins to show their anxiety or the fear. Whatever the wound is, it begins to make itself known really well. You say you don't get to run away for an avoidant. Anxious, we say you don't get to establish connection. They're never coming, right? And they're like, ugh! And then for the fearful avoidant, it's like, I guess it'd just be like, this connection is happening, and you can't say I'm not even sure how to do that, but fearful. I'm like, is it disconnection? Is it chaos? I'm like, no, chaos is like home for a fearful avoidant. Okay, but anyway, whatever it is, like whatever your strategy is, we just say, what happens when you abstain from that strategy, and then you end up that discomfort is like a big flashing arrow that points right to your wounds, and I don't know. To me, that's been kind of miraculous because nobody taught me that. No modality or therapist or coach ever got me to that point. I just kind of discovered along the way various research, but it's been so reliable. We were just setting up, and I got a message from a client I saw 2 days ago. It's the first time he did it, and he said it was like a psychedelic journey. And he said, we are onto something. Something wild is happening if I just sit and I don't let myself do anything for a minute. He has experience meditating, so he's just like, oh, I can meditate all day. I'm like, you can't. If you're doing this exercise for me, you can't meditate. You can't check out. You can't do some mental exercise that you learned somewhere, because that's doing something, right?
Triggers are amazing.
Yeah, triggers are a gift. I kid you, like when I first got into this stuff, Tracy Crossley was the first person I heard this from. She's like, triggers are a gift. And I was just like, no. And now I'm like, oh yeah, she was right.
And you need to know how to deal with them, right?
Yeah.
You cannot just go into complete overwhelm. And
Yeah.
In the beginning, you need guidance, and over time, you learn to do it by yourself, right?
Although if the overwhelm isn't like damaging systemically, which sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but like even if it's not damaging systemically and I don't have any guidance, I still learn something, right? I learned that like, oh, that's where I get overwhelmed. And then you say, okay, well, don't go quite that far. And then they do this little thing, and you eventually learn, you say, that's my point, where if I cross that line, I lose myself. So it's like, what can I do between here and there? Yeah. But guidance is great. Yeah.
And it sounds like already quite an aware person, if you
that's
can
true.
be with that, and not just downward spiral with all the, I don't know.
You're right.
Negative
I get what you're saying.
thoughts about
Yeah.
self and,
Yeah.
Can I double click on that?
Yeah.
So I think what will be useful is, at least for me and at least for many people, is providing tools. So can you just spend a little bit of time saying, let's say I'm triggered, you're triggered.
Right.
what are all the questions I can ask myself to attune to myself, and then go the next one. What are all the questions I ask myself, especially for people who are like mathematical and IT like me, who want to take like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then all the questions I ask myself to like regulate myself, and then express delight, and then etc. Can you just can we just start with attunement, and then like say all the questions you could possibly ask oneself?
Oh,
and
to
then go to the next
myself.
thing? Yeah.
Well,
So starts with attunement. So you're triggered, right? So
okay,
how do
let
you
me connect with this a little bit. So I'm in a state where I'm triggered.
Yeah.
That's actually a little bit harder. I think that, well, maybe that's because I'm anxious. But I generally feel like that's a harder place to start, is the self discovery and the self. It's almost like sometimes it's easier to do it with an outside person first. And then once you hear yourself saying it and you go through the whole process and you're like, oh, you can do all the same things with your inner child, but maybe not.
like what do I feel? What do I feel this?
Well, it's what did I just feel? That's the, okay. That's a good question, even if you're not triggered, right?
Yeah.
Like at any given point, it's like, what did I just feel? And you don't need a name for it. Like it's weird coming from a very technical background where language and labels and terminology throughout my life. I'm now in this place where I'm like, in the emotional space, in my opinion, labels are not actually that beneficial. Like, because labels are something that exist in the conscious rational mind, which is already, like, if I'm up there using language and labels to, put stuff in boxes and that kind of stuff, that's a very effective way of tuning out, of disconnecting from the emotions, is right. I'm like, I had this feeling, and it's like, what is it? It's like, oh, well, is that the green one on the emotion wheel, or is it this blue one next? It's like, is it anger, or is it resentment, or is it, you know what I'm talking about? I've done that. So if I've done it, I'm at, yeah. So, and if you can, and the name of the emotion comes up easily, sure, great. But if you're in a place where you're like, I'm feeling this thing inside, and I don't know how to describe it, and it's just kind of yucky, it's like, that's perfectly fine, right? That means you're in it. That means you are in touch with a big, powerful emotion, and it's very present. And I think that's a beautiful place to be, right? So you start with this question, what did I just feel? And then if you can kind of get some view on that, then you say, why did I just feel it? Like, what just happened that brought me to the place where that emotion arose? Why? Okay, so that's more of the triggering bit. That's like, this stimulus out in the outer world leads to that emotion. Okay, that's cool. But it's even more interesting to say, that emotion is fear. Why did I feel fear when the vase fell off the countertop? It's like, I'm sitting with my friend or my brother or my mother. They don't feel the same degree of fear that I do. So that just proved that fear is not a universal reaction to the vase falling, right? So we say, okay, I've got a bigger emotional reaction to this than people next to me. So I can say, well, why? What other time in my life have I felt this? What other feelings does this feel like? What other situations does this feel like? If there's a sense of anxiety, are there other places in life where I feel a similar anxiety? How hot is it? Is it like really sharp, or is it kind of dull, right? And so you can kind of explore all these things and be like, what is the feeling that I just felt? Why do I think that came up for me? And if you can connect that to a childhood wound, then that gives you an answer really quickly. Next one is the important one. That's probably the hardest. But it's, if I act on this emotion, how would that impact my chances of survival? Okay, does that make sense? I don't think you've been in my class since I've been talking about this one a lot. But it's like that. I believe that that every emotion is an accurate representation of some kind of internal belief of the subconscious, and that it is packaging up that emotion and delivering it to the conscious mind as an indicator, as a plea, a command directive to get you to take some kind of action. Like if it's fear, move away from it. If it's love or joy or euphoria, move towards it. Like if it's a positive valence emotion, it's basically move towards it or hold it. And if it's a negative valence emotion, it's like move away from it, isolate, push it away, whatever, right? And so if we just separate it like that, was it a positive emotion? Then my subconscious wants me to move towards it, embrace it, get closer, enmesh with it maybe. If it's negative valence, it wants me to move away. Okay, how would moving towards that thing impact my ability to survive in this situation? How would moving away from that thing impact my ability to survive? Because this is all based upon a hypothesis I have, which is the subconscious only cares about one thing, and that's survival of this organism. And every emotion that arises is somehow wrapped up in that goal. Is that like if I produce an emotion, let's say I'm the inner child and you're the adult mind. Say I'm worried. I look at this thing that's in front of us and I see a threat because I have some prior association. Now I want you to move away from it. So I'm going to wrap up a bunch of negative emotions and I'm going to throw them in your lap and be like fear, anger, like disgust, whatever. And then you move away and I'm like, we've gotten away from the threat. Right? Yeah. So that's one. It's pretty, that one's easier than the opposite, which is like I'm gonna love and euphoria and joy and like go move towards that thing. And we could say, oh well, we just like if this is true that the subconscious is operating on this survival dynamic, because that's its primary motive, then even the positive emotions are somehow trying to indicate something that's going to impact our survival. Go move towards this thing. That person feels safe. Go move towards this thing. We're going to get validation. Go move towards this thing. We're going to get an answer to that wound that has been sitting inside us for years. Right?
Yeah, it makes sense when you connect it to the inner child, and there it was actually about survival, right? I was in the beginning more, okay, now you have adult relationships, but of course what drives us often is the subconscious. Yeah.
That answer your question? Okay, good. Okay.
I remember you mentioning that the first 18 to 24 months, if I'm not mistaken, that's when you kind of develop your attachment style. Or you either become secure or you...
Yeah, so there's some people that say 36 months, which is 3 years. There's some people that say 24 months, and then there's a couple of people that are saying 12 months.
But either way, 12, 24, 36, at that time, if I'm not mistaken, you don't have the ability to form memory because that part of your brain is not like built yet. Like you don't have the prefrontal cortex to shut up.
Right. There's two memory systems, and there's a memory system that is basically the subconscious operates on, that some people call it implicit memory or procedural memory system, and we think that one's online the whole time. Basically, like as soon as your brain is formed enough to have a memory or to have any kind of nervous system reaction, that one's probably online and gathering information. But the narrative memory system, or some people call explicit, I think that's right, that one is formed over the first 24 months of your life. That one's it's like built, because that's the one that is like the cause and effect. It's highly rational, so it needs all these like higher cortical structures to be kind of online in order for it to function. So it's kind of like as the brain is forming during those first 24 months, that memory system is kind of being assembled, and then when it comes together to form a sense of me and I, it's like my earliest memory of me is, for most of us, our earliest memory is age 3. Usually is the earliest for anybody. Some people it's even later. So the theory there is that memory that we have, like we don't have memories earlier in our life because the memory system was just neurons spinning around that hadn't really been assembled yet.
Yeah.
And that's a key bit. So that's the clarity of what. Okay. So
we have no memories before 3 years old. That's why we don't remember anything happened
body
before.
remembers, right? The rest of the system, like the subconscious.
Right. Well, that's the memory. That is the procedural memory system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I know it's really popular right now to say like the body remembers, and there's something we can talk about there. But this particular memory system is inside the brain, and people like Lisa Feldman Barrett and Andrew Huberman, they had this whole podcast on that, and they're just like, yeah, the Body Keeps Score is a great way to sell books, but that's not. They were like the memories are inside this brain thing that we have. But there's some very interesting research by some right on the edges of pseudoscience people that talk about the fascia, and that the fascia seems to have some kind of storage capacity. And if that's true, then we have a fascia all through the body, and then suddenly we're back to the point of like the body is remembering, right? And then also links to that, which are just hypothetical at this point, is that like that's one of the reasons why movement and motor cortex, because we have two nervous systems. We have a sensory nervous system, we have that senses things, and we have the active one that activates the muscles. It's kind of two different neural systems. One that activates the muscles is somehow connected with trauma release more than the other one, right? So there's a bunch of things that you do that, like if you get the body moving, it, like TRE and a lot of somatic feeling, somatic experiencing stuff, there's something there. And I mean, there's a lot of people that think they know, but I haven't seen or heard anyone that is like, oh yeah, we got a 30-year study and 4,000 clients, blah, blah, blah. But it's very curious. So the subconscious does have a memory system. It's inside the brain. But then there's this hypothesis that this fascia material that we have, that's all that white connective material between the muscles and all the organs and stuff, that has some kind of storage capacity and function that we don't fully understand yet. And that's really fascinating, because that would tie together a lot.
So my question is, when I'm doing healing work at home and I'm going through I'm being triggered, so where's this coming from? I cannot access any trauma I experienced before I was 2 or 3 because I had no memory of that happening. So how do I do that? How do I trace it back to that? Because the first 2 or 3 years, that's when you're more vulnerable to traumatic events and experiences, etc.
Yeah.
But I have no access to remember that. Do I need to access that to fully integrate my traumas?
Fantastic question. The answer is no, you don't. You don't actually need the core memory. What happens if you can recall a core memory or a core event, what that does is it brings with it this like perspective and framing and all these like, that kind of neat experience. And that basically quickens the process, because now you've kind of got this, it's a story, right? And that's what we need, is we need the story of the experience to then drop into the narrative system. So that now we've got the individual bits of that experience are now encoded into our narrative memory system, and we say, I know what happened. It's like, I was in this place at this time, and this person did that thing, and I reacted like this, and I felt this emotion, and that's a story, right? And that's how our conscious mind makes sense of the world. And so if I can remember a core event, I basically get this whole prepackaged story with a little bow on it, and I just could be like, that's it. And then I drop it in my memory system. But it's not necessary, because earlier we were talking about the triggers. The triggers are a threat response, right? And the trigger points the arrow to the wound. But I don't actually have to remember what was there. All I have to know is that, like, what is the event? What is the stimulus that puts me in a place of terror response, like fearful activation? It's like, there's something about that stimulus. I don't need to know why. I don't need to have some glorified story. I mean, it's nice, it's cool, and it's helpful, but I can just be like, when I smell shellfish, I feel this surge of adrenaline in my solar plexus, and I feel like it's not sick. I'm not sick to my stomach. I just get tight and I cringe and everything. I just know that stimulus generates this response in my body. That is a truth of who I am. I don't know why. I don't need to know why. But from there, we can start devising exercises that will release and reduce that activation And you may never know. You may never know why green curtains are super uncomfortable for you, right? And that's okay. But you can know the green curtains are super uncomfortable and be like, okay, I'm going to condition myself against green curtains, and I'm going to do all this work. Get familiar with that fear. I'm going to go step into it and lean into it, and I'm going to release and process, and all the things we do with. And you get to the point where green curtains are just like mildly uncomfortable, if at all. But I've seen a lot of people get to the point where it's like it's just not even triggering anymore. And it used to take me up to an 11, and now it's like a 1 or 2. It's like I remember it being uncomfortable, but like I just walk through it. For me, that's the thing that we want to get good at, is like understanding, codifying that process in such meticulous detail that you can have it independent of a facilitator, independent of a person, independent. You can just have this method that you just drop it down and say, this may not address all of it, but it's going to get you 80% of the way there.
Can you explain how you define healing? Because especially being Bali, I feel like people associate to like, oh, I feel good. And I'm going to use the S word, spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
A lot of times like, oh, and numbing agents. I'm
Yeah.
like, are you healing? Or are you just like numbing yourself? Are you healing? Or do you just feel good? Are you healing? Or are you just like bypassing? Do you want to share like what's your...
Wow, you're good at this. So like along the way, I kind of developed this opinion that like, I realized that in my healing journey, I was seeking the feel good. Like, I want to get to the place where this doesn't feel bad anymore. And in doing that, it motivates me to reach for short-term answers. Psychedelics or a numbing agent or sugar or sex or whatever, right? And I think that's kind of where the numbing agents come from. And the opinion I formed over time was just like, I don't feel like that's healing at all. Like, healing to me is that like I'm aware of this truth that I'm talking about, like the truth of my system. And then I can look, and then I can think about my goals for the future, one kind of future plan or goal or dream or hope. And I can kind of orient myself towards that goal. And then I can look and see that there is a storm there. A storm meaning like a major emotional activation. And be like, I can walk right into the middle of the storm. And I will not be shaken. I will not be dissuaded. I will not be knocked off balance. I will not be dysregulated. And it's like, sure, there's uncomfortable feelings there. And sure, there's things that are going to carry and whatever. But it's like I can process all of those emotions in real time, keep all coming from like my center. And then when you can do that, then you have freedom. Because if you have fear pushing you around, I've got something that is still super uncomfortable, and it could be anything. Like, I talked to someone recently, and it was like the thing that really, really got them to a place of fear was the idea that like I'm not being productive with my life. It's like, of course, we're calling this capitalistic society and blah blah blah, and like all of us want to be productive, and all of us want to be right. But this was so strong that it impacts his inner well-being, and it definitely impacts his romantic relationships. Right? Because now there's this thing that like I'm afraid of, and now I orient my whole life in reference to that fear. Does this make sense? Yeah. And so if you can get to the point where like I am victorious over that fear, I can walk right. And then what happens is you end up feeling good. Right? It's like I'm not seeking the pleasurable space. I'm seeking the fearlessness and the inner strength. And then the byproduct of that is that like, oh, I feel pretty good most of the time. Because it's just like things aren't shaking me anymore. That to me is healing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When you don't avoid the fear anymore, you actually allow yourself to feel. Right? Instead of all this, oh, I need to compulsively work or feel good or And I resonate a lot with that. The word agency came up to me. Like you actually have a choice. It's not I cannot deal but only be productive, right? With all these detrimental effects. But I can face it and feel it fully. And that's why I sometimes think, maybe spiritual communities attract avoidance because you can all explain it somehow.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, I mean, the whole world is quite avoidant, and we have different measures, but we often think we're somewhere else, and that makes it quite tricky to see through oneself and also with others.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you find that there's times where you're just like, I'll describe it through my lens in the sense that like there's times where I'm just like, oh, there was something a while back, yesterday or the day before or whatever, and it got me. Like it got under my skin, or it knocked me off balance, or I got a little bit triggered, or I reacted harshly or whatever. And then I'm just like, I'm gonna go looking for it now. It's like I'm in a place of calm. I'm sitting by myself in my villa, and I'm like, let's go find that thing. So instead of waiting around for nature to come throw it in my face, I'm just like, no, I'm gonna go actively seeking it. And then you go find it. And when you go looking for it, there's a couple of things, is that especially if it's uncomfortable, what's it? I think they call it the anterior cingulate cortex, I think is it. Huberman was talking about this one a lot lately, is that when you intentionally step into discomfort, there's this portion of the brain that gets bigger. It's like it literally grows like a muscle. And it's the discipline, focus, it's associated with these kind of behaviors. And so I'm in my off time, I don't have anything pressing, and I'm like, I'm gonna go looking for my trigger. What was that all about? And then I just kind of do these like little visualization exercises. How close can I get to that event? And how much can I get myself triggered? And then you kind of play around with it and be like, what happens if I change that person into a man or a woman? Or what happens if it's like, it's in my garden instead of in the restaurant? What happens if, whatever? And what happens if he raises his voice or talks to me really quietly? You just play with all these different parameters, and I might imagine it play out this way and I feel nothing. I'm like, okay, that's not it. And I imagine it a different way and it's like, no, that's nothing. And then I get this one and it's just like, ugh. I'm like, oh, there we are. And then it's like, okay, now I know it's something like this. And then I, again, kind of zoom in, change a few more parameters, and I keep going and going and going until I've got something where if I go to this event with those people and they talk like this and they act like that, it feels yucky inside. I've just learned something about myself. And I've done it on my terms, and I've done it with like mastery of the whole experience. Now I can go there anytime I want and work on it, and then I can also retreat. And then you swing into the discomfort just as far as it is, just until it's uncomfortable, and then you watch and look and learn, and then you swing out and you regulate, and you come back to a place of safety, and then you go in there. And then you come back out. And every time you come out, your mind learns we can get that close and still be safe. We can get that close and still have power and agency. We can get that close, right? And every time you do that, it's like your resilience and your capacity to face this discomfort goes up and up and up, right? So it's like training. So just like going to the gym. I'm sitting there, pendulating in and out, and it changes. You get deeper in each time, and eventually you're in the middle of it and you're like, oh yeah, I know what this is all about. I know why this bothers me. And it's based upon this. And I don't know if I want to keep that belief or I want to discard it. That's my next step, but I know what this is all about now, and it has no power over me. Like you were saying, right? You were just saying when you first came in that like, what was it? Tell me again.
So I got happily triggered yesterday. I got euphoria. You want to explain why euphoria is a trigger before I explain?
Okay. So I believe that euphoria is a trauma response because, so I got 4 big ones that indicate that more than likely your system is reacting to a traumatic, and that's fear, terror, anger, confusion, and euphoria. And so fear is obvious. It's like this thing's scary. Anger, well, a lot of people say that anger is a secondary emotion. It sits on top of fear and sadness. And so anger, I believe, is this thing where it's like, I describe anger as something where your inner child is giving you a surge of energy. It doesn't like what's in front of us. It sees something and says, I don't like that. It's scary and I don't want it. And so, but it looks at the totality of the situation and says, but we can change. Like we can exert our force into the world and make this situation be different. But if we sink into sadness and grief and fear, we won't take any action. And so I think anger is the answer, is that it gives you this surge of excess adrenaline and power and everything else so that you will go out and change the situation. And we see, I have deviated, I'm sorry, but like we see evidence of that in the sense that like if a person is angry about a certain situation and the situation does not change, the anger comes back and the anger comes back and the anger comes back. But if at some point in time they get so angry that they just, slash and burn and they make some major change, it's like that source of that anger is no longer there. And the triggering bit of that anger is also changed, right? Hopefully that person hasn't become an angry person, but whatever. Anyway, so that's the anger thing. Confusion has to do with the fact that in a heightened state of arousal because of a trauma activation, your brain is being flooded with all these stress hormones, and it literally impedes your higher brain functions. At extreme levels, it just shuts off your prefrontal cortex and it shuts off all these other cortical structures. It just like puts them to sleep, basically. And so you're sitting here trying to look into the situation, trying to make some kind of analysis or whatever, and your brain fog. I call it brain fog, right? Okay, so now euphoria, the fourth one. Euphoria is when you have so much joy, so much happiness, so much like, yeah, that it's like you become dysregulated. Like it knocks you off balance. You're no longer here in this rational space. You're just like, oh my God, she's gonna be here, or here comes my puppy, or there's a donut, or whatever, right? So that's what I'm kind of describing as euphoria. And I think that what's going on there is that this inner child has some kind of latent wound associated with some kind of early childhood trauma, right? So there's this wound that is basically going unacknowledged, unaddressed. And then you see something that is, and you out to get the answer. I've been really hungry for this donut for 20 years, and you are holding a donut in front of my nose. And now I'm going to remember positive and negative valence for the emotions. I'm going to flood you with positive emotions to make sure you move towards that thing, to make sure you grab it when it gets close, so that the wound can be resolved. And so in that viewpoint, really, really euphoric emotional responses are more than likely, in my opinion, they're more than likely trauma driven. Okay, so now back to you, my friend.
So I was working on Uber co-working space yesterday, and I'm like working away all day, whatever. And then my friend sends me a text. It's like a film producer, and it's like, "Hey, do you want to come to a party? And there's gonna be a bunch of models." And they send me a video, and it's like a 5-star hotel. And then I just get triggered in a positive way. Well, with
Positive
euphoria,
way. Yeah. You're
And
like,
I'm
"Woo!"
like jittery. I'm like, "Oh, this is what Kirby was talking about." And I sat down with it, which was way easier to do than being triggered by fear or
Yeah.
anger.
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, cool. Let's work through this. Where's this coming from? Why am I feeling this? Why am I feeling this? Where's it coming from? Like, why am I getting excited?" So I kind of like sat down for a bit and called my friend, like, "I'm gonna come a little bit late." Didn't tell him why, and then I kind of like worked with it, and it was amazing. It was really good. I really enjoyed that
What
process.
did you discover?
It was basically going back to, I was seeking validation, and I thought, and went back to like my perception of myself, and that I'll get love and caring, and that I'll be seen and heard by people. And if they're attracted people, then that means I'm a better person, I'm a good person.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
all this beliefs
Yep.
and stuff.
Yeah, I hear ya.
You know, it's
Yeah,
like-
no shame here. I've done it. I've done it, man.
Because they're very attractive, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, and then I'm gonna get this release of a bunch of stuff, innovation and stuff, and
Yeah.
then I kind of worked through it, and yeah, it was a little bit hard because I had to look at myself, like, oh, I'm kind of sad.
Yes. But that's so powerful, isn't it?
Like, okay, this is how I operate. This is my modus operandi, which is cool. I worked, and I was like, I didn't shame myself.
Yeah.
Though I felt it.
Good job.
I tried to like hold space for myself.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is where I'm at. This
Yeah.
is me,
Yes.
Alex, in this moment, and
Yes.
this is what I think I need. I was like trying to talk to my inner child, like,
Yeah.
okay, like validate him. Like, we don't need validation from the people.
Yes.
Try and validate him and be like, it's fine, it's okay, and what you're feeling is okay. Not shaming him for feeling that.
Yeah.
And trying to get him the validation instead of like go there and like get it from these people, because in my head they're trying to
Yeah, totally.
So,
God, it's so powerful,
but
isn't it?
it still felt good to get the validation.
Yeah,
which
yes,
I'm working on, like
I
reading
know.
off, right? It's
I
a
know.
drug. But it was, I
Yeah.
I calmed down. It went from like, to like, okay, this is gonna be a really cool event, and it was a
Right.
cool event. And it was great, and I actually haven't slept. And I'm not gonna share what happened, but it was it was a good night. I'm running on like on the high. I'm literally running on the high. But again, it's stuff. But like,
Yeah.
it was great. It was good. But like, I went from like this euphoric to kind of like here.
Right,
And
right.
Yeah. So it's good.
And I mean,
it
it's
was great.
that-
But
that-
it's hard to get 100% off. At least for me, it's hard to get 100% off. At least in my journey right now, I find it difficult to get 100% off the addiction of validation, approval,
100%.
and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much I talk to my child, whatever, there's still that need,
it's a
there's
tough-
still that
oh,
feeling,
yeah.
there's still that he releases juices and makes me feel like tingly and like,
Yes.
yeah, and like, oh.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
try to give it to myself, but like, when
But
a really attractive person does it to me, it
So-
feels really good.
Yes, 100%. So the thing,
Working on it though. But yeah.
you're doing awesome, man. The thing there is to recognize. The thing there is to just say that, to recognize that was probably one of the most difficult addictions that humans face. I literally, I know someone that's gone through heroin addiction in a major way, ended up in rehab and all that kind of stuff, and then we started working together. And one of the things he said, once we kind of really honed in on the validation addiction, he was just like, "Oh my God!" He says, "Breaking heroin was." Yeah, he was just like this. I mean, he's been through a couple of different substance addiction problems. He's doing fantastic, but like this was the one, and it was like, and he went, God knows how long before ever coming to this, because validation addiction is so normalized in society. It's just like people are like, oh, well, he's just in love, or she's just what, and it's just like, no, that's such a big issue. And so recognize that it's one of the most difficult addictions to break, and then remind yourself that it's a long game, that like you don't beat it in one or two shots. It's like yoga, that you're leaning against this thing. You say, I see it, of course I do. I'm human. Most humans have validation addiction. Okay, let's go inward, do the inner work, and if I can do that one more time, I have won this battle, and eventually you win the war. Yeah, it's a hard war, but you do not win the war in a single battle. You win the war with like multiple repeated battles. And oddly enough, I mean, when you think of it from the terms of that inner child bit, it's like the fact that you're there fighting that battle for him, he sees that. And that's one of the things that makes it work. Is it like, if you just show up once and be like, oh, I'm going to validate you now. It's just like, well, yeah, but what about the previous 20?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like any relationship. You need to build trust with the inner child. Right?
Yes.
You need to show up consistently, be a secure attachment figure.
Yeah, absolutely. The consistency is so key. And again, like it keeps on loop. It's one of the reasons I think that this is the way, and the answer is that it keeps looping back on itself, is that when I get skilled at this continuous presence and this continuous investment with the inner child, I'm literally training my brain how to be present with someone that has needs, and listening and honoring. And then, so I'm sitting here for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, doing all this work with the inner child. And then it's like, oh, okay, I feel pretty good. And then someone walks into my life and I'm like, oh, I know how to do this. Like I've literally been practicing it every day for however long, I've been on this journey. And then it's like the skill is totally transferable. You just say, oh, I'm doing all this stuff to be a secure, present, holding space for you when you're dysregulated, giving you autonomy, expressing delight. I'm here doing that all the time. And then now I've got a partner in the flesh. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to be present for this person. It's like I've literally built all the skills before they ever even appeared.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I wish someone had taught me that when I was younger.
Something I love that you said in the last lecture, which was like, was the concept of the seat. I love.
Yeah.
Do you want to share that? That was just
Okay,
amazing.
thank you.
Amazing. Like the seat is like.
Yeah. So in attachment theory, they talk about the primary attachment figure. And I started painting this picture that the primary attachment figure is like a seat. It's like one of these chairs. And it just says, PAC on PAF, primary attachment figure. Yeah, it just says PAF on it. And the default person that goes in that, it's like, think of it as like a chair that sits in my psyche. And the first person that goes in the chair is mom, obviously, because mom's got the heartbeat. And so mom goes in the primary attachment figure seat. Now, every issue that comes up in that relationship, every problem, every trauma is like, it's like, yeah, it lands on mom, but it spills over into the seat. And now mom gets up and leaves, and then, dad comes, or uncle, or my favorite teacher in 3rd grade, or whoever comes in and they sit in that seat. And that person is their own person, but they get all the junk that's sitting on the seat. Like all the traumas that are attached to my primary attachment figure are now land on that person's shoulders. And then we move on and we get a new boyfriend, new girlfriend, whatever. And then and it's just this pile of stuff. And I kind of think of that, people talk about baggage, I'm taking my prior wounds or mommy issues or whatever into a relationship. That's kind of a way that I visualize this, is that like that seat of your primary attachment figure is gunky and full of all this pain and stories and whatever else. Okay, well, what do we do about that? And it's like the answer, well, I guess I'll get to the answer, but I'll talk about one of the hijacks, is that the answer is that I want to get to the place where my conscious mind, is the person sitting in the seat. So I am the primary attachment figure for my subconscious, for my inner child. And so when my inner child says, I'm looking for safety, I'm looking for solace, I need someone to come, I fell down and hurt my knee and I need someone to come kiss my boo-boo. This subconscious will go to the seat. Be like, who's in the seat? And when we have a history of codependent relationships, that will always be somebody else. And then, so what happens is the inner child starts feeling uncomfortable and unsafe and says like, go get the person from the seat, go get her or him or whoever, right? But you're like, no, we broke up with them. And it's like, F you, the inner child says. He says like, I don't care what you decided, I want that person. And so they will flood your mind with thoughts and chemicals. This is what we call ruminating thoughts or limerence or love addiction. We're going to flood your mind with memories and thoughts about that person because I'm trying to motivate you to get off your ass and go get them.
Nice try.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's this you have to go through this transition where the seat is empty for a while, and then there's all this chaos, especially for an anxious person, but avoidance also, really. And hopefully, if you keep doing this relationship with the inner child will just kind of naturally put you in that seat. And then it'll be just like, wow, you've always got my back. And you step out of this game where you're trying to win approval and you're trying to, all that kind of stuff. You check out of that game. You're like, I've got everything I need right here within me. And then you're in a place where you can actually have a really healthy relationship. But the hijacking bit or the bypassing bit is one of the things I started noticing along the way, because I've also spent a ridiculous amount of time in religion, a few of them. And one of the things that happens in the kind of the major world religions, something that they take the spiritual figure or the guru in the seat. So the guru, who maybe I've never even seen, like that person's in the seat, and now I've got the pictures on the wall, and God, so you got this God, this perfect creature, and so they developed this attachment relationship with basically a virtualized entity, God, right? And we put God in the seat, and it works. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't work. It definitely works, because when you have a perfect entity in the seat, perfect entity, basically does the thing. He or she or it will react to you the way that you need. Parent figure protocol is that we've literally invented kind of a fictional entity, put that person in the seat. That person is now my primary attachment figure, and now I get to have this wonderful relationship with someone who always behaves in an ideal way, but you're still externally focused. Right? You don't get when you do that, you don't get the inner confidence of connecting with yourself. Like, it is effective, but I don't think it's the best option.
Yeah, it still has a limitation, and that's why I like the maybe more spiritual, which see you as God, right? And you have it all within yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a true anchor.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, you're always here, and yeah.
You just did a attachment workshop yesterday, right? How did that go?
Yeah, good. I think people, for me also in the beginning, it's been very helpful to understand, oh wow, I react this way and I'm not alone. And it's totally normal considering my background.
Yeah.
Which in itself is like very healing, and okay, I'm not doomed with my patterns, right? And I think people got this idea, and I also did a somatic practice where we did something similar that you now explained, like all these protective mechanisms, numbing or criticizing yourself and others. That's actually just protection, right? To not need to feel that it can be so scary to be abandoned or rejected. And then we went into this fear with some gentle breath work, and then you give this commitment to your inner child, to this really freaked out part of the nervous system, yourself, and show up yourself first and foremost. Wow. And some people were ready for that, and that's amazing.
Good job! Wow. So you mentioned patterns. No, you don't have to share, but I'm curious. That, like, what kind of patterns have happened in your relationship past that you're like really now aware of, and you're just like, oh yeah, especially if you can laugh about it. If you laugh about it, it's so much better, right? You're just like, oh my God, I was so right.
Which ones? I think, all of them. I used to think I'm really avoidant, but then I realized, okay, depending on how the other person is, or at one point I become anxious. Like, as soon as they are not available anymore, I really want it. When they're available, I don't want it. Just any way to keep love away. I've been playing all of them out. Choose the I like existential kink and really think, the book and philosophy of existential.
Existential kink, yeah. Someone was just talking about that recently. I think it was actually last week. Anyway, but this idea that here, I'll let you explain.
Your subconscious kind of gets off on all these experiences. Your subconscious is choosing this, and it finds pleasure in it. Okay. And so, it's been a lot of drama and like creating a lot of, life experiences, which is also beautiful if you, start to heal and understand. Now I have more and more of a choice. It's not like this complete hopelessness about and feeling just absolutely bad about yourself and your life. So,
what's one crazy thing you've done?
I can get really, really obsessed with people.
Okay.
So like
peeking through the window.
No, but like going to the same cafes or passing the house where they live, or I think one like modern example too, I Googled once if I can turn off my Wi-Fi and then still watch the story on Instagram of the person, and they don't notice that I watched it. Oh my gosh, the energy.
I love that.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Like I'm one of those people that, I mean, well, you know, in the past, but yeah, I was like one of those people that would like drive 2.5 hours through the mountains or whatever to just randomly show up at someone's door or where I knew that they were hanging out.
Neighborhood.
It's just like, oh yeah, it's just in the neighborhood. Oh, it's just, you know, I come with some bullshit explanation about why I was there. And then I think back on it, I'm just like, oh my God. Like, you know, it's like, well, I listen to some good podcasts on the drive, but I just, this is not the where I want to be. What's happening here? Yeah. Yeah, so it was a lot of like big events like that kind of led me to the two mind model, this idea of the conscious and subconscious being different, because I'm like 100% so many times in my life that it was like I was taken over by something that is not me. And I'm like, what was that? I mean, I don't know if I said this before, but like there was times in my life I legitimately was looking into be like, what does it feel like to be possessed? Because like there's something inside me that when it takes over, I go to sleep and then it's like I wake up afterwards, my life is in ruins, you know? And I was just like, what is going on? And I had to ask all these questions. And you know, if I show up with a therapist or a coach, I would say that kind of picture and you know, they're not on the same page. They're being like, oh, is this guy insane or whatever? But to me, that was the thing that like really resonated. I was just like, there's something that takes over when it gets really bad. Examples I can think of where it's like afterwards, I think back about what happened during that period and I can barely remember it. It's like very hazy memories. So that's, you know, from the experience I had, television, books, movies, whatever, that was a sign of like a mental break or you know, like you'd go do something and then you can't remember it so well. It's like, were you drunk? Were you on drugs? Of course, all the teachers ask that. Were you drunk and on drugs? I'm like, no, I'm stone sober. And then they're just like, oh, maybe he's schizophrenic or bipolar, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. And I was exploring all those things. Just like, is there something majorly wrong with me? And then, I don't know, it's just along the lines, I kept researching and I kept finding more people that had the same kind of experience. I'm like, this isn't the exception. This is the rule. This is mainstream. Everyone that has major emotional activations goes through stuff like this, like crimes of insanity, crimes of passion, whatever. And I'm like, why is nobody talking about it?
Shame, right?
Yep.
And that's then the most dangerous thing, actually, because nobody talks about it. You feel completely alone, and instead of that it can be looked at, like the shadow can come to the light, right? The possession. It's only a possession if you try to keep it down, but if it's like, wow, and the light, and then we can talk about it and be aware, like bring the conscious to the subconscious and have a different choice.
Yeah. And it's like, there's times where I found that like, especially when I'm doing the classes on Monday, it's like it gets to the point where it's playful. Like it doesn't have to stay hidden. It's just like, oh, you got that too? And it's like, let's all laugh about it. And it's like, and then you bring it out and you all have a good laugh and you play about it. And you know, but there's still people that are legitimately suffering, right? Because they're feeling whatever, and be like, okay, let's help you understand what's happening. So you don't have these things, I'm insane. So now you understand what's going on. And now we've had a little bit of laughter about it. And it's like, this is not the end of the world. Like we know what to do.
Yeah. Right.
That's just so powerful for people. Yeah. I mean, I met you, 4 weeks ago? Probably?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, like 4 weeks ago and at a dance class. And then you were, I don't know, you were super interested. But,
asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, you were asking tons of questions. And it's great. And they're wonderful questions. We've spent hours talking already. But it's like it was, we reacted the same way. Like, I remember that, like when my ex-wife was leaving, that kind of year, in the end, the way that I was like super people pleasing and the thoughts that went through my head, you were like saying, oh yeah.
Super nice guy syndrome.
Nice guy syndrome, right. All that kind of stuff, thing, right? Yeah. But I could tell that there was wounds in you that were still kind of fresh. And it's like, and I don't see those anymore.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Well, yeah, it means a lot to me too. Yeah.
I've been every day. I've been like looking at stuff, going through the healing process, trying to chop those memories up, try to revisit them, make the emotional payload a little bit smaller, a little bit every day, a little bit smaller, chop it up. It's not like a huge thing. Yeah. It's been a journey, and it's been a month.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm still on my journey.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful journey. Hard.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just like great and stuff. But it's beautiful. And I notice myself getting less triggered, and it's
They decrease in frequency and intensity, and it's like, and then when you're in the feedback loop, right? Because I think one of the challenges that people have with traditional therapy model, I'm not knocking them. There's definitely a time and a place. I think one of the problems that people have with the traditional therapy model is that like you don't get that I've made progress feeling. You're like, I'm here. It's like this feels horrible, and whatever, right? And some therapists are great at it, others not so good. But like if you don't have some kind of feeling that like I'm making progress, it's like it adds that I'm like flailing. I know that was true for me. I think at one point I saw 4 different therapists in 1 month. And a few times it was like, and like there was 2 of them I was seeing at the same time, and then I was bringing in these extraneous ones. One vibes with me. One guy kicked me out because it's like, no, this is too much for me. It's just not.
Oh wow, that's broken.
Yeah, that was a good one.
can be fixed.
Yeah, to say that like I went through the journey myself, and there was so many. I look back and I'm like, that could have been so much more progress. That's what it is. The amount of energy I was expending, I feel like there was very, very little progress. And now I feel like I can spend that same amount of energy focused and with people and myself, and we definitely see progress. And coming from a engineering background, I'm like, oh, though you look at it through that lens, and one of these is better than the other. And so I'm like, I think there's better ways to do it. In some cases, not all.
I've been thinking about this as well. I used to go to therapy for maybe 4 years, and I also thought, well, for example, my therapist, she said, yeah, I'm reparenting you. Mm-hmm. And she never brought me to my inner child and seeing how can I actually find this place of strength within myself, like my own mature self. But also, I believe I haven't been ready for anything else. And she just, at the beginning, to have someone where I could start to open up. Like in these 4 years, I would never cry. Okay. And now I'm an expert in crying. I just want to cry.
Yeah, that's great.
But I also wasn't ready for that. And maybe in this stage of my healing, I needed just someone to be there and have love for me, right? Yeah. Because I didn't trust humans at all, but she was like this. I mean, at all. We're always on a spectrum, but looking back, I was just scared all the time around humans. Yeah.
So I looked at your website a couple of days ago, which I don't think I ever have before, and it's like there's all these certifications and tantric stuff. So where did those fit in your kind of the timeline of your healing journey? Was that like an early stage thing or more recent, or?
I started therapy when I was like 26 and also started to do yoga at the same time. And then, 3-4 years into therapy, I found a spiritual teacher, and then I understood, okay, I have to feel, I have to go into the experience, and it's all sacred and all one, and I'm whole and complete. And it was quite mind-based. Mm-hmm. And then I found this tantric teacher. She works with this approach, you're whole and complete, but also very psychological and with new somatic tools. So that's 3 years ago that I started with these studies.
Right. And then if you think about, because you were saying, you're like, I was terrified of people, right? And so would you say that the fear of people had diminished by that point? Or would you say that like going through the tantric journey helped you with that? I'm curious about how those fit together.
Yeah, definitely. All of it fit together.
Okay. Like stepping into this tantric journey with a tantra practitioner, it helped you release this fear of people? Did it?
I think like, it was more the psychological aspects which helped me, or maybe neo-tantric practices where you come together and share, right? Even
yeah.
a women's circle can
Yeah.
be a bit like
yeah, yeah.
tantric or eye-gazing, so
Yeah.
and tend to understand I'm not alone and I can go through this. But then, of course, one-on-one work, which was less tantric, I would say, than more like somatic, really helped me to build this inner healthy environment, as we often say.
Was this before or after the Wi-Fi stories trick?
Yeah, in the
Wi-Fi
going,
story?
Well, she tried to turn off her Wi-Fi.
Oh, sorry.
at the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah. I had a period, maybe 2-3 years, where I really avoided dating. And then Tantra is more about expose yourself to the intensity of life, and you can survive, right?
Yeah.
And then I started again, and I did again all the mistakes that I did before. But okay, now finally, I had someone to accompany me and work through this. So yeah, it's getting better and better.
Good.
Can I share a story?
Yeah, please do.
It's a big thank you. So last weekend I did my first breathwork, a shamanic breathwork at the Yoga Barn. It's like 3 hours of like breathing, which is very interesting. My biggest epiphany during the session was my metaphor of the chair was that I realized 34 years. So my metaphor, like the hallucination I had was like, I had this child, me, and I spent 34 years handing him over to, speaking a little bit vulnerable here, handing it to other people. And then I thought, oh, do you want to take care of my child? Give it validation, approve him. Okay, cool. Oh, okay, you go. Oh, Corey, do you wanna? Mom. Okay, cool. Girl, boy, friend,
Same.
whatever.
I did the same. Oh
And
my
that was
God,
my game for 34 years.
Yeah.
Right? And then I didn't know I was doing that. And then why I started really crying was like I just realized like if I was that child, imagine my parents just spent. Like they just like imagine if somebody I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can you not be with me? Like, why can you, Victor, just be with me? Why do you need to give me to other people?
Yeah.
And I just felt so sad for that child, and it was, it's getting, but yeah, I just felt like thanks to you, I've been kind of like spending time with him. And it's been great. We've been hanging out, and he's been throwing some tantrums sometimes it's fun. And we've kind of been having like a way healthier and like really committing to make him, he's definitely my number one relationship now. And it's been great. And not as justification, but I didn't know I was doing this.
Yes.
So I'm not
100%.
It's not like I'm a bad guy. Maybe I don't know, whatever. But like, I just didn't know. I was I just, it's like, imagine you wake up and someone's like, you've had a kid for 34 years. I'm like, oh shit,
Right.
what?
Like in your hands, actually.
Like,
and you're like, I did.
And yeah, the kid just was feeling like super abandoned and like
Same, man.
left and like unloved and uncared, and just constantly handing him to the next person. And when that my ex left me, it was like spent 7 years taking care of her, and then and then before her I was with other people. It was constantly like I was never there. I was an absent, and then I felt like more sympathy with my parents and compassion. I was like, I abandoned myself. I self-abandoned myself. And that was like a very thing to process. But I'm working on it, and
Killing it.
apologize for you.
No, like that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you. I feel super honored. Like
But thank you.
not
Like
just-
literally, without you, I would just continue playing my game because I'm great at repression. Like my repression is what I do best. I can repress any emotion I can repress. I'm Mr. Repressor, and then I get hijacked, and then crazy shit happen, and I go to repress mode.
You're just like, woo,
Oprah's wonder for like 34 years. That's,
Yeah,
that's what I've been
yeah.
doing, right? It's like, what does cry mean? How do you spell that? No, I don't know what that means. But it's been like this last month has been like fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the next years and continuing this journey.
Awesome.
So
Oh,
it's fantastic.
My heart-
Again, Kirby,
my
really,
heart-
thank you.
my heart.
Thank you,
Oh,
thank
thank
you,
you.
thank you, thank you. Like,
Oh, wow.
literally, yeah, changed my life, and
Wow.
like legit, like emotionally, at least on the
Yeah, yeah,
emotional
yeah.
side, it's been a huge change. And it's not a woo-woo thing, like you just have to feel it. Like it was like legit stuff. And I resonate a lot with you because, like, as I said, like you're very pragmatic and logical, and I love how you think because I feel like with many people, I'm not a feeler, of course. Like you can tell, like I'm very
Yeah.
like logical, pragmatic, and like and you think that way. You kind of communicate in a very logical, pragmatic way, and have like great tools and approaches and stuff. So that was great, and it's been great. So thank you. And my question was, so I feel, especially in Bali, I love Bali, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel there's a lot of people who kind of like operate from a standpoint. I want to see what your perspective is of like get in touch with your feelings and follow the G word, your gut, and do what feels right. And for me, and please correct me, I want to see what you think. I feel, and I love this thing that you say, they're walking flesh robots.
Walking flesh robots.
Yeah, so there's like a little 5-year-old that's like, move forward, move backward,
Yep.
go sideways, go to that board.
Get sex.
Dude,
Get sex.
yeah, go sex. Okay, eat. And then like literally just like walking. And like, oh, 5-year-old say this. And I love what you said, which is, it's not about like denying the 5-year-old, but it's about having a conversation. Like, okay, cool. So you want sex, you want sugar, you want donut. Cool. What do you want that? We're trying to fulfill. And like, again, going back to the conversation. And maybe that's what you should go for if you want to.
Yeah.
But it's about the conversation. And there's no right or wrong. But I feel here, it's really like, that literally just like, and this like, I just follow my feelings and my gut says,
Yeah.
and then literally like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just want to hear your perspective, like, but that's what I see happening with a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, oh, but my God said this, and he just made me feel this way, and I felt this way. Sort of like, again, obviously the theme is I'm not a feeler.
Yeah.
You can obviously tell from our conversation. But when I'm trying to get in touch with that part,
Right.
and I'm trying to integrate it, and I want to hear what your perspective on that is.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, do you have thoughts on this?
I understand that you don't feel this, right? Because it doesn't really work, in my opinion, because it doesn't consider trauma and how our nervous system can be, how to say, like damaged and can not really see clearly what is actually danger and what not, and what is intuition and what is fear. That takes like a lot of practice to get there. Then you can follow your gut, but before it can just lead you to the next like
Yeah, the next lollipop, the next cookie. Yeah, yeah. So the way I see it, I mean, I've heard all this stuff too. Whoops. And just
No shaming and blaming.
yeah, I don't want to shame and blame here. It's just this. The way I see it is that like, okay, people say follow your gut. Well, gut, intuition, kind of the same thing. The idea is that like there's some impulse, right? So if I try to reduce this down, there's some impulse that's arising within me and it lands in my mind. Go do this direction, right? And I'm like, where did that impulse come from? And I don't know. I don't know where that impulse came from. And so people say, oh, well, it's gut or intuition or some kind of spiritual source or whatever. It could be any of those things. It could be all of those things. But the point that where I come at this from is that like, regardless of where it came from, do you give it free rein? And if I say, okay, maybe give me a free rein, like just let it do what it wants to do. Well, let's look at the fruits. Like look at what happens. And I'm like, okay, I can watch you a lot. And I mean, if we're a client or we're good friends, I might see this a lot and I can form an opinion, and I know you less. And so I would just say my opinion, at that point, but I do know myself really well. And I have a very good memory of my life. And I'm like, okay, let's think about it all those times that impulse came up and I just followed it. I ended up driving 2 hours across the state to, randomly run into someone at Safeway. And it's like, that was me following an intuition or a gut or something coming up within me, right? And so And I'm like, well, walking into a party and literally picking the most unhealthy person in the room, that was an impulse. That's the same. It's like wherever that's coming from, you can say it comes from whatever. I don't know where it comes from, but I do know that if we look at situations where people, like you say, have a history of trauma and wounding and whatever else, that will not always lead them to a good place. And so I'm like, okay, well, that means we need to control it, right? Well, then let's look at people that control it all the time. They have a similar problem. I'm like, oh, well, shit. Well, now we're back. Now we're back in this rule that nature keeps reflecting on us, that we have to be in the dance. We have to be in this uncertainty between a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And so that's where I talk. I'm like, don't dismiss intuition or gut or source or whatever entirely, but also don't give it free rein. Like if you give it free rein, you're letting a 5-year-old drive the car. And that may work sometimes. You know where it works? It works when you surround yourself with other people who are doing the same thing. And that's the thing that I see here in Ubud, is that you exclude all the people that don't operate that way, and I gather all the people that do operate that way, and then we go have a party together, and we all have this little trauma-informed 5-year-olds crashing their cars into each other. And it's like, and then we're like, woo, that's so much fun, right? and I mean, and it's like, and that does work, and there's a time and a place for that. But yeah, I just won't get on board with the idea that like just follow your gut at all times and it's somehow intrinsically right or the body knows, or it's like have the conversation. And it turns out when you have the conversation, that inner child is being like, oh, he or she, whoever's up there, cares about me. They like, I'm saying, I really want to go get that cookie. I really want to chase that tail, whatever, right? And then mom or dad shows up and says, which is the adult mind, and says, hey, I hear you and I care about what you're saying and I care about what you desire. And I would really like to help you achieve that. But we have to do it within the confines of safety. And if I just let you go grab that cookie or chase that tail or whatever, like we're not gonna end up in a safe place. And so let me help you get there, and I'm looking out for both of us. And I just feel like that is such a healthier place to be.
Yeah.
Because you're practicing the honoring of the child. You're also practicing the inhibitive powers of the conscious mind, and you're also nurturing that relationship. Which, guess what, is a fully transferable skill as soon as I'm in a relationship with another human being. And it's a transferable skill when I birth a child into this world. That skill that I'm building right here transfers to all the other relationships. Like, let's have this conversation. You want to go do this thing. Or what's a crazy thing that's come up in a relationship where you're like, I really want to, and they were like, no, or vice versa. Anything like that? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, I just don't have anything that comes
Okay.
to my mind. I mean, yeah, I had my experiences and learned through them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, I'll think of. I'm thinking of one. Yeah. Okay, so Linda's a good one. She's dear to me, but she had a very difficult life, and a lot of her decision space is dominated by fear, and she's understanding that now after the time we spent together. So we can be in a place where I'm like, I want to go do this thing, and she's no, right? And early on, I take that personally. It's like you saying no to Dad is saying no to me. I don't feel seen and heard and whatever and valued. And eventually I kind of grow beyond that, and I get to this point where I'm like, oh, is that a no for you? I hear that that's a no. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, you said no for good reasons. I'm interested in understanding what those reasons are so that I can have a better understanding of you in the future, right? Because what a lot of people have had happen is that when the partner comes and says, well, tell me why you think that, their experience is that partner is loading up their gun, their ammunition, so that I can come shoot you with it later, right? I only want to know why you feel that way so I can shoot it down. I only want to know why you feel that way so I can shame you for it. That's stupid, that's ridiculous, whatever. So a lot of people are very resistant to the process of attunement because what looks like attunement in the past has turned out to be unsafe. Yeah. And so knowing that, again, knowledge is power, knowing that allows me to step in and say, why does this feel like, and it's just like, there's this resistance, don't want to talk to me. Got it, that's fine, you don't have to tell me. But the reason I'm interested in knowing is because I would like to structure a future together where we're in better alignment, and understanding why you said no to this helps me in that journey. All of this is manipulative in the sense that I'm trying to create a sense of safety. Create a sense of safety, that person will then open up and share. Again, transferable skill to the inner child. Okay, so now I'm creating this sense of safety, and then she tells me why she said no. I'm like, okay, I got it. I hear you. Like, this makes sense, whatever it was. And then I'm like, okay, well, what would it be like if we changed it like this? And then it's like, no. I'm like, well, what if we changed it like that? No. I'm like, wait a second. You're just saying no to everything at this point. It's like, yep. It's like, because what's happening is that, like, now the eyes are on, right? I'm being seen and heard. You're looking at me. And now if I change my mind, I lose my strength, I lose my integrity, something, right? We all have that. Like, I'm stubbornly digging my feet in. It's like, okay, then this is basically over. I mean, we're not going to really make any more progress here. Okay, then leave it at that, and it's okay. I have to go. Now, I go through this whole process with my partner. I still have to decide what my truth is. Right? So now I got to go do the whole same process with my inner child. Why do you want to go to the club? Why do you want to go do this thing? Why do you want to go to the dance or whatever?
I just want to make a comment when you said, which I think is beautiful. So what I've been doing subconsciously, actually, consciously now, is that what you're saying is, I like what you said about, I have a construct of you in my head, and I'm going to attune with you by checking how you feel to update my construct, because you are constantly changing, so I have to constantly update the OS I have of you. So by checking, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, what's going on with you? And then saying thank you and expressing the that you shared, like, in a small way, and be like, okay, cool. And like, so now I kind of see like no, I don't know how to say that. It's like, oh, I need to update my construct of thingy, and then I just check in. I just attune to them. Like, it could be like 2 or 3 minutes. Like, I just don't do it when I'm triggered now. I do it like a normal conversation. Right. But then I know I'm kind of giving them a few pillars, and I'm also updating my concept of my construct with them, and realizing that is constantly changing. Yes. So what my attunement with you now is going to be different in an hour or in 2 days or whatever, and constantly checking in. So I've been doing that, and obviously you do that a lot, so I've kind of stole that from you, so thank you. That's a cool
well,
trick.
Okay, so
I like that.
Like,
cool trick. Backing
up for the audience and Rahel, who maybe doesn't remember that bit, is that, like, that's starting from a point where I make this assertion that I'm like, if I'm in relationship with you, I'm not actually in relationship with you. I'm in relationship with a version of you that lives inside my head. And that's the thing, that I'm actually in relationship with you. And that version may not actually be in sync with who you actually are. Yeah. And we see this time and time again, where people step into a relationship where I see you and the way you look, or a couple aspects of your personality, and now I create this fictional version of you in my head that I'm totally in love with, and I'm just super love bombing the shit out of you because the person in my head is awesome. And then we, get all wrapped up and entangled and enmeshed and, blah, 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 like all our chemicals intermix. And now I figure out now I see that you were different than the version that I have in my head. And now I'm angry at you. This is literally what happened with my ex-wife. Like, I did that. You too? Yeah. Yeah. And I think the more we can help educate people that that's kind of a very, very real dynamic, and it's natural. It's the way the brain works. It's reducing. It takes a big complex system and reduces it down to a couple of things, efficient and burning less calories and stuff. So it's a normal, natural thing. So we don't demonize it and we don't shame it. We just kind of bring light to it and say, this is probably what you're doing. So if that's the thing that's at play, if that's the dynamic at play, then I need to be, one of the ways I can build a healthy relationship is to responsibly update my construct constantly. I'm just like, I'm checking in with my person on a daily basis. Have you ever seen a relationship that is 2 weeks, 2 months, 30 years, and you realize that they don't even know each other, right? It's like he is still reacting to his wife that he married 20 years ago. And he's still treating her as if she's the same person and expecting the same things and all that. And I'm just like, because I'd seen that phenomenon in my life, and I was just like, what is this? And I don't know, I was probably a young kid and just didn't know how to process it. But now I look at that situation, I'm like, oh, I've seen that so many times. And I'm like, and in some cultures, it's even encouraged. It's like, yeah, just you get married and then you each play this role and you play this part and I'm the dutiful husband and you're the dutiful wife and we blah, 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 and we do this thing. And then you go off and you have your separate lives, right? And it's like, you're not actually emotionally connected, right? But yeah, so that's kind of looping back to what you were saying, is that like developing this practice where I am checking in with people that are close to me so I can understand what's really, to actually inquire about what's going on, and then they feel attuned that I'm seeking attunement and I'm updating my construct. And the better accuracy my construct has, the more you're going to feel seen and heard. And then of course we've got situations where, like, say you have an accident or you fall down or you can't communicate. Now I'm using my construct to just figure out what your needs are, like an accident. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen very often, but it definitely does. Practice, like checking in, right? Yeah. That you're doing it regularly now.
Yeah, with just, like closest friends and family members. There's a few people around me, so it's been great.
It's remarkable how fast they change, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like we don't. It's like I think about like a person, and I'm like, oh, I know that person. And then yeah, it's like I know an image of that person, and God knows how out of date it is. You know, we don't get the little ding, Windows update. You know,
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
I love it how the person changes in your mind, right?
Yeah, or they stay stagnant. Like the real person is growing and changing and shifting around, and I'm still looking at them through my construct. I'm like, oh, I know Jimmy. Jimmy's the laugh again guy, or you know, the comic. Jimmy's the guy that he always shows up at a party. He's always telling jokes, and you know, he drinks a little bit too much and whatever. You know, and I'm still telling that story to people. And you know, Jimmy got clean 3 years ago, and you know, and like and his wife died, and so he's not telling jokes so much. And it's just like, you know, yeah. You get the idea.
Yeah. It's the assumptions, right?
Yeah,
We always want to
totally.
question our assumptions and really honestly checking in what's going on and how is it true, my assumption or perception. I have a question here for
Yeah.
you. I'm really loving the idea of slow dating. Like, it works so well for me. I do organize speed datings in Ubud, but actually I'm not so fond of slow dating. Do you, in your experience, like professional experience, your own, do you also feel like that's so good especially when you just don't have like a secure attachment style, I guess? I mean, even then, I guess secures are much more slow.
Yeah.
What I read is, for example, securely attached people are more primarily, they would never make a difference between physical intimacy and emotional intimacy. So it obviously takes longer for one or the other, right?
Yeah.
What do you think
I totally
about
agree.
this?
I mean, back to the euphoria topic, that's a dead giveaway. Like if I meet someone and I've got euphoria that goes off the charts and my system excited to see them, I'm like, oh my God, and I'm, you know, stalking them on Instagram and whatever. Like that's a dead giveaway that you've got an attachment wound that is on fire, and the euphoria has arisen because it thinks that winning that person over is going to answer some, and then that's a mess. Like that will be a mess guaranteed. And so, but what we see from those people, and I'm one of them, like I definitely did that a lot in my life, is that you're like, oh, this feels so good, and this is so healing. I don't know if you heard that one. This is so healing, and then you literally disappear for 2.5 months, and all your friends are like, where'd they go? And you're like together 24/7, and you're just upping into this business all the time, and yeah, I'm super guilty of that. And I would define that as fast dating, or it's the fast approach, right? If you have compulsions to approach and get into it that quickly, that is a sign that if I have that alive within me, that is a sign that I've got unresolved business. And that unresolved business will guaranteed show up, and that toxify. Not to show up, it will toxify that relationship. And if I have that alive in me, I probably pick someone that also has it alive in them. I will.
It will just blow up.
Yep. It'll be super high, super crash, blow up, etc. It's really good at making babies. That's. I honestly believe that that's what this is all about.
Wow.
Yeah. That
Survival.
Yeah, that the attachment dynamic. I was like, okay, we've had whatever. Some people say humans been around 100 million years or whatever, but say it's 65 million years. Doesn't matter. That's a long time to get shit right? And so like we've got 65 million years. Right, you've got 65, of human psychology figuring stuff out to figure out a way to like have like good, healthy childhood and a good attachment system and, blah, blah, blah. And it's like we've had a lot of time for humans to get it right. So if it is still in the state it's in, that tells me there must be some kind of evolutionary advantage to it. And so I zoomed back and I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm like, what possible evolutionary advantage could attachment dysfunction of this magnitude, right? It's so crazy. It takes us to a place of temporary insanity. So why would anything be advantageous evolutionarily to basically make us fucking insane? And it's like, oh yeah, makes babies really, really well. Really well. Because you have two people, they have attachment messes from their childhood. Now they're all dysregulated and insecure, and then they meet someone that's kind of like dad, and the fireworks go off, and they come together, they have mad sex, and it's just like, and before we have prophylactics, babies.
But what about this child is probably not taken care of so well, so he could also die, right?
Yeah, but you make 10 of them.
Right.
Right, you just make 10 of them, and that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
Right, one of them's going to live, and guess that's going to be the strongest one. It's like, whoa, nature. I mean, this is all a crazy hypothesis, but I mean, I look at it now and just like, somebody offer a better hypothesis why attachment dysfunction of this magnitude still exists in our mind. Across and it's everywhere. There's no place on earth is free of this. This is everywhere on humanity. Like the attachment, I think the strange experiment has been reproduced in every major culture on earth, and basically it reached the same conclusion. There's some cultural shifts, but I don't know if that's true. I read it somewhere, and I don't know if that source was reliable or not. But I have seen that, like, oh yeah, we did in Japan and China and North Korea and Europe and America and blah, blah, blah. And so the strange experiment, which is the one that that's the original one that determined the attachment styles, the strange experiment. That one's been reproduced many, many, many times all around the world. It's got remarkable consistency. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, that tells me that we've got the same attachment dynamic all around the world, which is unique by itself. Other psychological models don't have that. So it's like, okay, so now we got this thing that seems to be universal across humans, and it's kind of fucked up. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, if it was hostile to our survival, it had a negative impact on our ability to survive as a species, we would have gotten rid of it by now. And it's like, but we haven't. So that tells me it's got to be beneficial.
I mean, it also needs to die, right? Nature don't just want life, it also wants death. It has to renew itself all the time. Maybe that's...
Well, I mean, death is kind of just an automatic reaction. I mean, I kind of think of it as in the sense that it's like Richard Dawkins wrote this book called The Selfish Gene, and it's this idea that like we are driven by the genes, and the genes are trying to basically reproduce, and they're very selfish. They don't care about, like, they literally, genetics do not give a shit about your well-being. And the attachment system, I mean, the subconscious does not care whether or not you have a healthy relationship. What it cares about is that it gets its needs met right now. And that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, and then boom, reproduction, now we got babies, blah, blah, blah. We raise them. The ones that survive. And then it's like, okay, you're done. And it's like, anyway, that's just one theory. I think it's compelling. It still has question marks around it, but that's one that I just kind of like, I've looked at that a lot, and I reached a place where I'm like, I'm happy with that conclusion. I will operate. That will be my working hypothesis for now. I just put it on the shelf, and it's like, I'll come back and look at it if somebody gives me compelling evidence. But from where I sit, that's the way it works.
Funny comment. I'm going to share a funny comment and a question. So yesterday, there's a moment I was talking to this person, and she said, "We have chemistry." I was like, Kirby says I should stand up and walk away. I did not. But I was like, oh, that's trauma. But I went with it. And I was like, because it was whatever. But I was like, because I remember that nugget you said in one class, it blew my mind. And you're like, if somebody says we have chemistry, walk away. Like literally stand up and walk away. But I did not. It was like, I couldn't.
Validation addiction is strong.
But then I realized basically there was like,
What was your conclusion? I mean, so you stay. That's fine. No shame in that. So you stay. What did you observe? What did you observe about her? What did you observe about her?
I was
or yourself.
Well, I observed that basically in a way that she was kind of responding to trauma wounds and stuff like that. And to an extent, I was too, because I was getting validation and this and that and getting human connection, blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of doing the game, but then I was more conscious of it happening. Well, before I'd be like, we have chemistry. I'm like, dude, how much chemistry can you have after like 3 hours? Like, it's bullshit. Like, it's sorry, I'm saying bad words.
That's okay.
It's you're doing the, you're gonna, sit. I'm gonna put you in the seat, or you're gonna give me this thing that mom didn't give me.
Yeah.
Kind of playing that game, right?
Yeah.
She was doing that, I was doing that. But I still played it. It was cool. But I was aware that I was doing it.
That's good. Really good.
Just not. Yeah, but I still played it.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the next question. So, do we ever get to stop playing this? So you were talking about your relationship, like, when your partner like moves forward, you move back. Like, do we get to stop playing this fearful, anxious game that you said all movies, all Hollywood, all relationship? That's the game, right? Like, I move forward, you move backward, and it can be, and the way you said, it's like you're not even anxious. You can be majorly anxious or like fearful, but then within a relationship it can change, within the day it can change, within the moment. So it's changing, right? And then you were telling me like even a secure person will also move more anxious.
We have evidence of that, yeah.
So are we bound to play this game no matter how much we deal with that stuff? Are we bound to play this? You move forward, like I do this thing and you do this thing and we kind of do this dance?
No,
Can we get a place where we just don't dance anymore?
Yeah, but it's. I mean,
I was just like,
I don't have. I mean,
awesome, like, it's just,
I feel like I'm mostly in that space, and I don't have a lot of time in that space, so I can't, draw conclusions across a large time span. But I have seen writings of people that I believe are in that space, and they claim to have been in that space for years. And it's fundamentally different. It's just like the whole nature of the relationship is different. It's like, I'm here, I'm okay, I'm fine, I don't need you. I don't need any of this. Nice, and I like it. And like, I feel a little bit stronger when you're around, and it's like, and then then you spend time together and you kind of build these things, and like it's like you're joining your energy together for some kind of common goal. And in doing that, you have this deep, it's like, they described it like the love, instead of being this like hot upward chemistry energy, it's this like down roots into the earth kind of energy. Like I'm here with you, and it just feels lovely and nurturing. At your back, my back, and I've got your back, and like, and I'm a better, like I'm good, but I'm even better when you're around. But I don't need you to be around. And then something happens and the relationship falls apart, and both people kind of wander off in their own direction. And it's just like, and you're like, I have some sadness about it. Goes for a little while, and then it's over, and they move on with their life. Like they're not playing this back and forth game.
So my question for you, if you don't mind sharing, like your personal experience. So you're obviously in a space where you don't do that, but you said like your romantic partners kind of at some level play that game. So how do you do you just say, like, how do you deal with that? Like, you just accept like that's where they are?
Yeah.
And that's fine?
Yeah.
And you just let them do their thing, and you just spend time until it doesn't serve your higher, both of your higher self.
So
and then
there's this question that came along at some point in my mind. I'm just like, well, okay, now that I feel so radically different than I used to, I'm like, what is the even point of a romantic relationship anymore? What am I doing? And then I realized I'm just like, I mean, there's all these lovely bits, you know, and physical stuff and chemistry, you know, biological, blah, 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 you know, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, but the thing is, it's just like, if we get along and we're having positive experiences together, then why not? Like, you know, and if it's not detrimental, great, keep going, keep doing it. But even more than that, I realize that it's like, if I'm in a place where I'm really solid and I'm strong and I can look in the face of the storm and hold myself, then I can offer this as a loving gesture for another human being, is that I can create this container with my strength and my groundedness to allow them to dysregulate. There's the third pillar of attachment is support while dysregulated, and it is exactly this. It's like, I'm going to create this container so that when you get triggered and when the big emotions rise, you can pour all that emotional energy right into this container that I've created for you or helped create with you. And there will be no shame or no blame. Like, there will be nothing but safety in my presence. And what happens is that person's traumas unlock a little bit every time that happens. And then that relationship could be 2 hours, 2 years, whatever. When that relationship comes to an end, they are better than when they started. I think that is, to me, that is an act of love. And like, I recently was talking to someone, and she was talking about this relationship that she was in, and she's like, oh my God, it was so healing. It was so, all the good feels and all that kind of stuff. And then she said, and then it came to an end, and then I was completely destroyed because like this person that had been my safety and my support and everything had left me. And I was like, okay, and this is just not therapeutic. This is a casual conversation with friends. I'm like, there is a way of looking at this where you say, if you go through an entire relationship with someone and you are worse off at the end than you were at the beginning, that was not actually a place of healing. That was a place of codependence. That was a place of emotional enmeshment that was reproducing past enmeshed relationships from your life. He was probably an emotional proxy for mom or dad or whoever was not there. Your dad probably wasn't there. And she's like, how'd you know? I'm just like, because that's the way these things work. I said, but if you go through a relationship that's 2 months or 2 years or whatever, and that person is stronger, more autonomous, more grounded in themselves, have a better connection with their inner child and all that kind of stuff, and they walk away from that. I mean, sure, you can have grief and sadness and all that, but I mean, if that person walks away better, like, I have done an act of love. I have literally demonstrated love in creating that space for this person. To me, that makes sense. That makes sense to say, what is the purpose of a romantic relationship? And I'm like, that's a good answer to me.
Can I ask an edgy question?
Yeah.
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about anything on camera.
Yeah. Everything's.
Do we need to, if you need to censor this, that's fine.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know the boundaries of what we were.
Everything's on board.
Feel free to answer, not answer.
Yeah.
So
we'll edit it out if it's not great.
A little bit too much. So my experience in the last month, I felt a little bit comfortable here. Let me sit down properly. I noticed the more I get to this place of centeredness, like my sex drive went really, 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 really down.
Yes.
And like the only time it goes up is when I descend into a place of seeking validation and all this stuff.
Yes.
But when I'm not in then I get, and the more I go in there, the more I'm like, like I need it.
Yeah,
like,
this agitation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but when I've been in this place, I'm like, why do people just make a big deal of this thing? Like, it's not. So I just wanted to ask, like, if you want to share.
Thank you for
is
asking
that
that
a thing?
question.
Like, am I just a weirdo or whatever?
No. Like,
am I changing or becoming inhuman or alien or something?
I don't know the answers. I don't know the answers to those questions.
It's so weird because like 34 years I've been since I was 15, 16. I thought it was it's my hormones.
I've got huge sex drive. I've always had huge sex drive.
That's what I thought. I was like, I have a high libido. I have a huge sex drive. I've had all this thought, and I was like, and then I correlated to like my relationship, like that when I had high libido was basically me needed attention and validation, blah blah blah, and all
the-
this wound.
it's like that
and
person
then
was-
all this stuff.
yeah, super not
It
available.
was all about like this, and it wasn't really about sex.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, it's so weird, like not wanting it after wanting it for so long. I feel like
Amen,
a fish
amen.
out of water. I'm like,
What?
this is weird.
yes.
So I just wanted to share. I wanted to ask, like,
Yeah.
what's like.
So
It's a new feeling for me.
Same.
So I'm in like
100%.
uncharted
That's happened.
waters.
Uncharted waters.
What is
I do
going
not
on?
know the answer. The same thing happened to me over the past like 2 years, kind of as like I really got centered in myself, and I noticed this happening, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, nobody warned. I'm like, is my testosterone low? I need to go check my testosterone. Like, blah, yeah. Right. It's just, so like all these mysteries, nobody, and then I start spreading the net wider and asking more and more people about this. I have heard from 2 women, I think, that correlated, and they said the same thing. As my wounds healed, my sex drive decreased. And now I've heard from many, many men on this, that it's just like there is a straight line connection between attachment wounds and sex drive. And I'm just like, to me, it blows my mind that this is not talked about all the time. Because there's so many, people are selling these, erectile dysfunction pills and blah, blah, blah. That might be big pharma. But yeah, I mean, there's so much concern around the whole sexuality thing. And I'm just like, there's a straight line connection here between psychology. It's like, if I get super in myself and I'm feeling awesome, it's like, it has a noticeable impact on my sex drive. And I'm like, is that just me? And like, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I've talked to many men that say the same thing. And it's like, I don't think it's over. I don't think that. It's, I had my men's group on Thursday morning. So I was in my men's group this morning, and I brought that up. And one of them likened it to, is like, have you ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, where they're like Zuko loses his like firebending power? For people who have seen that show, they will totally get it. It's like, he's this big, strong prince that like shoots fire everywhere and everything else. And when he gets connected with himself and he calms his anger, he can't master the elements anymore. He literally goes, whoa, poof, and this little, little poof comes out. It's just like, and someone's like, oh, does somebody have performance anxiety? And so I don't think it's over. I think it's like we have to rediscover. We have to discover something else, that there's something else there. And it's like, and sure enough, you can be, I mean, it's not that it's gone, and it's not that like there's dysfunction or anything. It's just that like there used to be this jittery, powerful, hungry, testosterone-driven drive that probably, you know what, again, is really good at making babies. Like that probably attracted a certain type of woman. I'm guessing here. But I'm guessing they're probably attracted a certain kind of woman that is very receptive, or will be, her attachment wounds will be inflamed by that kind of attention. And then you have the chemistry and the baby making thing, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're the tantra expert.
Yeah, I have my theories about it, but I cannot not explain it like super in detail. But what I hear a little bit from tantra is that it is actually tension that you want to release together, right?
Yeah.
When you're having sex. So it's fear-based.
Yes.
So many of these sexual, like urgency.
Yes.
Like that you feel like I cannot bad jump on this person. It's actually you're scared of this person. Something is really activated. Yeah. I guess also hormonally it would make a lot of sense, like adrenaline, and you want to, I don't know. And what we read from like avoidant people, right?
Yeah.
They often use sex to have some kind of connection, but they don't want to open up emotionally. So I definitely made this experience as well. I don't have this urgency so often anymore, or at all. I don't know.
You hear it from other women? I'm very curious about that. Have you heard this from other women that say something along those lines? As I heal, my sex drive decreases?
No, I think not like this.
Okay.
I can just see it in myself, and I can also see how I understand what I need in order to want to have sex. So I can create it, the arousal. Like it's not anymore spontaneous. That's what we anyways think and grow up around sexuality. sex needs to be spontaneous. And when it vanishes in long-term relationships, or even when people are like overworking or before an exam or so on, they don't want to have sex, right? Especially for men, I think there's this idea that they always need to want, and then they suffer when they don't want it. Or women, well, I have this man and I just don't want to have sex. What's wrong? But actually, there's spontaneous sexual desire, but there's also the, I don't know, like context-dependent desire, and you need to find out what actually turns you on and what makes you feel safe or excited. Like the unknown can also be a turn on, right? And anticipation and so on, but also relaxation. So there are different ways to understand, and then you can create it very consciously, and it's amazing. And maybe you're there then with the heart, and it goes much deeper. And otherwise, I just don't want it anymore if that's not present. Or I can choose, but I'm conscious about it. Okay, I'm choosing this, right? I choose to talk to this person who finds chemistry.
All
Can
right.
you just double click on what you said? So I love this concept because, again, you just changed my paradigm, because my paradigm was sex is spontaneous. Like, I'm in the mood or you're in the mood and it happens. Like, that's my paradigm. And you're saying, no, there's another paradigm where, like, the word you use, I create it?
I understand I need a lot of emotional connection, actually. Now I don't feel connected. I find strange what the other person does, like not opening up or anything. And then I need to check in. Or maybe I'm denying my own truth. I am disconnected and I just need to share what I feel. Then I feel closer to the person, and then I want to be physically close. But can also be, I need to be in a stress-free environment. Like I need my downtime after having worked. Or maybe I do like this type of music, but not the other. This one totally turns me off. So many external factors in the environment, but also internally. If I'm worried about myself, my body, criticizing how I look, and I come into a performative mode, like it all kills the desire.
That was beautiful. Like, yeah.
So does this relate to, I was listening to a relationship coach, and she was saying that in long-term relationship, what she recommends is us time, and it's basically a scheduled time. So it's scheduled sex time, which I thought was interesting, because with my wounds, though, sex was never a problem, because I was wounded, well, did this trauma ping pong, was fantastic. And then, so she says, like, you schedule like a time, and like, I don't know, Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. And basically you go through this ritual. So it's not about like, oh, it's 5 p.m., let's do it. And you go through a ritual, like, cool, like, and like, you listen to each other, you tune to each other, or you listen to each other's need, or you give each other a massage. And it doesn't have to be sexual, but it's time schedule for like physical connection. And what typically tend to happen, if you're comfortable and you're stress-free and you're listening to each other and whatever, sex is a natural consequence. But there's actual scheduled time that you put together, like, when put the kids away, whatever, this is us time. And then there's going to be time where we can just like physically connect with each other, whatever that means. And then that tends to lead to more sex in relationship. And I thought that was interesting, which kind of like, I connected that what you were saying, like creating it, as opposed to being like, oh, it's supposed to happen spontaneously. Because other people be like, oh, but that's scheduled. Why do you want to schedule? It should be like spontaneous.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
So unromantic.
you should just like, like, but there's a concept.
Okay,
At least I was raised with that concept.
Okay, but now think of this. Think of this through the terms of my 5 pillars of attachment. And it's like, okay, so if every child is born with a craving to be wanted, chosen, and prioritized, then I have a deep desire and craving to be wanted, chosen, and prioritized. And then we do some stuff, whatever that is, dancing or making cookies or whatever. And then she craves me so much that she kind of loses her mind temporarily, right? Like she becomes so turned on, dysregulated, whatever, that she is craving me, and then she basically, whatever. She moves towards me physically or inviting or whatever. How wanted do I feel? How chosen do I feel that, like, we were supposed to be making cookies, or you were supposed to go to the office or whatever. And it's like, and we had to put down all these things because I'm so irresistible, right? That is a perfect answer to the wanted, chosen, and prioritized desire, right? Okay, well then you get married and you move in together and you got kids and you got various lives and all that kind of stuff, and all these other things are taking your priority away. So now we're in relation and you've got things you're doing and I've got things I'm doing, and I'm not prioritizing you because I'm operating under this assumption that you're just there for me, right? You're just there at home. And then what do we see? We see relationships crumble in that space. So now what this relationship coach says is like, take a time, set it aside where you literally prioritize your partner. You push everything else away and you say, during this time, I want you, I choose you, I prioritize you. And that's it. And now it's like, how do I do that? It's like, maybe we make popcorn together. Maybe we make cookies on that day. Maybe we give each other a massage, right? And it's like, and in this place, it's like, wow, I feel wanted, I feel chosen, I feel prioritized, I feel safe. Like we've got this beautiful connection thing going on. It hasn't been 10 months, it's been 7 days, right? And it's like, yeah, I really like you. And then I literally now, I see everything through this lens of like wanted, chosen, and prioritized, because almost every single time I hear someone complaining about a relationship, that's what they're saying. He's not choosing me enough. He's not prioritizing me enough. She doesn't want me, or this behavior that she's doing makes me think that she wants somebody else more than she wants me. It does. It feels bad. It doesn't. I mean, I get it. It feels bad to be like, you want someone else more than you want me, or you want something else. You're going to prioritize something else over me. It does. It doesn't feel good. But the thing is that the mistake that people make, and I'm in lots of these communities where they come together and they all complain about the relationship stuff, is the mistake they make is they come there being like, they're not doing blah, 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 right? You know, they're saying this word that's confusing, or they're, you know, why he's disrespecting me. That's a worthless term, blah, 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 right? They do all this stuff where they're pointing the finger at the other person and complaining about their behavior. And instead of just saying, I want to feel wanted, chosen, prioritized, and this doesn't feel that way to me. What can we do about it?
Yeah. The need. What is actually the need, right? Can I express it and see, can they give it to me? Maybe not. Then I give it to myself and see, but so many times they give it to me, so I don't have to.
Right.
I'm going to be vulnerable here. So 2 weeks ago, or whatever the time was, I got triggered by you, which is great. I was like, I got triggered. So it was a talk or something, and then after the talk, I went downstairs, I got this bottle, like this water, and I brought some cups, and I came out and I was like, oh, let's talk with, I can't remember his name. And you're like, hey, Victor, I'm talking to Thing, let's catch up later. And I got triggered, like, he's not choosing me. I was like, yay! So I went down, I sat down, I was like, what's going on with you? Okay, cool, you know, and then I kind of did, it was like, no triggers, not it's okay. But it was great because I was like, oh, like it happens so, like it's always happening all the time. It's not just you partner. It's like the little thing somebody said, or like I was dancing the other day and like this girl was like, said something, but her voice was a little bit louder. Yeah. And then boom, I got triggered. I did in the process because we're dancing, but then I realized, like, oh, that's, and again, I'm talking about, these are little triggers, they're not like massive ones. But then I'm learning to constantly realize this, and then I take time in the evening to be like, where's that coming from, and kind of doing this thing with me. But yeah, it's interesting. But then it always comes down to, I don't feel chosen when to prioritize. Like whatever the flavor is, it boils down to chosen when to prioritize. You're like, oh, like, she did this, or he did this, or Kirby, or shit. It basically comes down at the end. Chosen prioritized. It's funny how that goes, right?
And it's like a superpower. Once you can crest that, I feel this way. It's like once you can crest that and you can say, yes, I have a deep desire to be wanted, chosen, prioritized by this person. And then the very next bit is be like, they are an autonomous human being. They get to do anything they want, act anything like, and demanding that they give me that because I don't feel good is toxic.
Can you explain toxic?
Oh, toxic. Okay. I hope all the cameras I hope all these cameras are still working. All right. So my operating definition of toxicity is that I want you to be different than you are. That's it. I believe every toxic relationship that I have been a part of or seen boils down to that. One person just simply says, I want you to be different than you are. I want you to love me more, but you don't. I want you to pick up the trash off the floor, but you don't. I want you to, stop flirting with girls, but you do. Whatever it is, like, if I can say, I see who you are, I recognize that that's the truth of who you are, and I accept that. I obviously I can't change it, right? But then I say, okay, but I have this desire for you to be different than you are. That's my business. And if I show up with demanding or manipulative energy into this relationship and you get you to be different than you are, I'm bringing toxicity. So I have to say, as soon as I have the thought, I want this person to be different than they are, I could be like, okay, what's going on? You can desire that they're different than they are, but that relationship will turn toxic. Oh yeah, because some people don't track on this, and so let me slow it down, is that it's like, because I can suppress that and not act on it, but I'm still thinking it, I'm still feeling it, and my resentment is still building, and it's going to sneak out in little ways, right? Well, eventually you start detecting that there's something about you that I'm not happy with, right? And then you start wishing that I'm different. You start wishing, can't he just accept me the way I am? This is very frequent with the avoidance. They will get that all the time because the anxious person is always being like, just love me more, just give me more, do whatever, right? They're to the avoidant being, I want you to be different than you are. I want you to be more loving. And the avoidant gets to the point where the avoidant says, can't you just accept me the way I am? This is what I'm capable of right now. And the anxious person says, no, you need to give me more. That relationship is toxic as fuck. And it started with one person saying, I want you to be different.
And I do want to ask you, I have this, and we do have needs. We
Yes.
like also from other people, right? We are social beings and long and want romantic relationships. So if they never give it to you, it's truly very little, then you just need to take the consequences.
It's like, that's my business. I frequently tell people, I'm like, if you express what you're hoping or needing or whatever, and that person shoots it down or brings any kind of negative consequence, and you're like, you now know everything you need to know about that relationship. If you stay 10 seconds longer, why? That's on you. If I stay 10 seconds longer with someone who's clearly demonstrated they're not capable of giving me what I need or showing up or being interested in me or whatever, right? Any of those things. If I stay 10 seconds longer, that's on me. Why? What am I afraid of? That means in my value hierarchy, staying is more important than my needs, which is literally a message to my inner child saying, I abandon you. I don't care. This other thing's more important. And that's how many of us, I've done that.
All my life.
All my life,
You're
yeah.
just describing me right now. Thank you.
Yeah. And then when we shift this around and we say, hey, I've got this thing, I'm with my inner child and I know that we need this. And then you communicate that and the other person's like, yeah. Like maybe they don't. Maybe they say, I'm not capable of that. Right? I just simply am not. But I hear you and I want to help you. It's the same. It's just like talking to the child that wants the cookie. I hear you and I want to help you achieve that goal, but I'm not capable of doing it. Now you've got a green flag. Now you've got a chance, right? And who knows what that looks like? There's no relationship police, so it could be anything you want. But if that person is just like, you say, this is my need, and they're freaking out, and they're just like, ugh, and push away and deactivate or whatever, that's not a good place to be. Why am I still here? And that question came because I asked myself that question so many times. Looking backwards, I have these big tumultuous relationships, and I'm just years afterwards being like, why did I stay so long? I was miserable, and all these things went wrong. I'm like, of course, I wanted to point the finger and blame and to say oh, it's all them and everything. I got past that, and I was like, I literally chose that. Every single day, I woke up and chose that person. I chose that misery, and I chose that path that I was on. Why?
Sorry, just one last thing.
Okay.
So something that was very and I'm not going to try to use the word men and women. I'm going to say humans.
Right.
So something that was I couldn't understand for a long time. It is certain humans, women, humans, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
whatever. That actually it's actually just a human thing. That were with people that did not make sense to me. I'm like, you're in this relationship with this person and you're clearly complaining about this person a lot.
Yeah.
And you're choosing, I don't get it. And it's like, no, but I feel this. And I'm like, but boom, boom, boom. And then I was kind of in that situation where I was in a relationship with a person and I was like, I was all the time complaining. I was suffering so much. And then I realized I was getting other needs met. So no matter how much I was complaining, there was some stuff. There was some wounds, there were like fears and da-da-da-da. There was some stuff that were being met that were, at that time, more powerful than the suffering I was experiencing. I was able to endure all that suffering because I was getting something.
Yep.
If I wasn't getting something, I wouldn't be there. And no matter how painful it was.
Yep.
So now I understand my sister and other people who are like, no, but this guy is a jerk, da-da, and then close them the next day. I'm like, okay, cool. You're getting something. Like, you know, you need to work on your stuff because I was the person who did that. And I was like, oh no, I get why people are such a relationship that did not make sense. I'm like, you're constantly complaining about this guy. Why are you still there? Why are you there? Why are you there? And then I did that, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's happens when you.
This is one of the origins of the value hierarchy game. Like that game we played with the value hierarchy. That's one of the origins of this. It was just like, take this thing, which is like your partner is, I don't know, like really messy. We'll just start at something simple. Like your partner's really messy, and then you go to your friends and you complain about it. But it's just like that. Having a clean partner is somewhere on your value hierarchy, but there's other things that are higher than that. Obviously, whatever's happening is these upper things, because if messiness was your top priority, you would be done. But obviously you're not. So that means you've got other needs above it. So instead of focusing on these ones down here that are like where you're misaligned, figure out why am I here? Right? And then that gets, so, messy or a loud eater or whatever, that's easy. But when you say my partner is, serially cheating on me, lying and sleeping with other people and spreading STDs or whatever, and someone will still go back to that person. See, that's where it's super interesting, because you're like, so many people look at that and be like, hell no, I'll never be with a cheater. But you take that person and get them in the right situation and structure the value needs, the value hierarchy the right way, they will absolutely stay there. You're like, why? Because of attachment wounds. Like the only person that will stay in that kind of abusive, abandoned, whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that cheating is always abusive, but it's out of alignment with their values, but yet they stay. Why? Because attachment needs will dominate the system. You don't get to make those kinds of choices when the subconscious is like, connection needs are top priority. Bing, hijack, you go back.
By the way, disclaimer, if my ex is looking, I was also, and another thing you helped me realize was that I'm a horrible human. Thank you, Kirby. I realized how of a bad person I was. By that, I meant that I didn't realize I was toxic. So I didn't realize I wanted to change her. I wanted her to be different. Right. 1. 2, I didn't realize that I was shaming and blaming her not being the person I wanted to be. Why don't you love me this way? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? And like shaming her, you should do this and
same thing. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I was being bad or abusive. But in my head, I was like, but I'm just telling her how she should love me, and why don't you, whatever stuff, and like you don't do this, you don't do this, and like constantly shaming, which makes her feel unsafe. And then realize how somehow I was creating trauma, because she was the 3 traits, right? She was feeling unsafe. Maybe she was feeling trapped because I had this image. I was trying to make her become this person, and she felt like obviously like not safe. I can't remember the other 2. Used. So I was trying to use her to fulfill my needs. Yep. And like sometimes when I got triggered, like
hold on for a second. So what he's referencing there is that there's this stuff from the work of Jim Hopper. I mean, I'm extracting a little bit out of his context, but I believe it's to be true. Is this idea that like all traumatic experiences have three traits in common, and that is I am unsafe, I am being objectified, used, consumed. Uniqueness of me does not matter. I'm being objectified, and what they call perception of inescapability, which is kind of like trapped, but it's like the wording he uses is like, the door's open, why didn't you just leave? And the reason you didn't leave is because your perception is that even if I do leave, this situation is inescapable. And so the idea there is that if all traumatic experiences share these, it's like, think of like 3 dials, and it's like just different amounts. And, it might be down to a small amount, and or it might be like maxed out. But you're always going to have some combination of I'm unsafe, I am being objectified, and I cannot escape this. And those are traits that are common with all traumatic experiences, and this is the thing that ties traumatic experiences together. So if I'm triggered over here because I'm feeling trapped, all of my traumatic moments are going to come a little bit closer to the surface. I'm over here because I'm feeling unsafe, all of my traumatic memories are going to come closer to the surface, because that's the way the memory does its association game. And so that's what you're referencing here, in the sense that like you're talking to your ex, or you're thinking about your ex, and that like you literally did create moments where she was unsafe, she was being objectified, because like I don't care who you are, I want you to show up my way, right? And then you're creating a perception of inescapability. She's like, I care about you and I want to be here, but I'm trapped in this dynamic that you keep demanding me to be different than I am, right? And I just think that what you're describing there is very common.
And obviously she chose cheating, whatever.
Right.
But the point, I'm realizing the part I played, because
Yes.
before it's so easy if you get cheated on to like sit with a bunch of people and be like,
oh my God, yeah.
look at the cheater, and everybody would be like, yeah. And I get to do the,
I hate
I'm a
those people.
good guy,
Yeah.
and look at, and I, people use bad words, B word, S word, whatever.
Right.
I get to play that game. I get to play the righteous game, but it's a harder game. Be like, oh my God, I was creating trauma. I was I wasn't showing up. I was being toxic. I was blaming. I was shaming. I was creating traumatic experience for her, and she was just she got hijacked to escape and seek safety, and that was she chose to feel the sense of I'm not justifying here,
whatever
but
it was.
I'm just saying it just gave me perspective that I was not a victim. I was fully I
co-creating.
played part.
Yep.
We both danced, and that's what resulted in I had my dance thing, like I had my part, she had her part, and this thing happened. So I wasn't totally innocent. There's a bunch of stuff that I did that created a lot of stuff, right? Again, not justifying it, but I'm just saying.
But do you notice, in your opinion, when you had that victim card and you could hide behind it, did it feel like looking back now, the period of time that you were holding the victim card, do you feel like your progress stopped?
I was powerless. Like
I
was just like, because like now I can just sit and like everybody will agree, and nobody will disagree that her cheating was good. Like everybody was on the same page, and they're like, oh, dude, like, and then I get to play the card like, and I'm still with her,
right?
Which somehow I thought was I don't know, I had this small game I was playing with myself, and I was like, I'm a righteous man, and I still stuck with her because I love her, and I did this dance, whatever.
But your personal growth,
totally stopped.
Totally stops when you're holding the victim card in front of you. Yeah,
it's so easy like it's so easy to play the victim card. Like
seductive.
It's seductive. The word.
Seductive.
It's so seductive to like point at something that everybody agrees is bad. And then, like, for example, like, let's say this man is hitting me, right?
And it might be bad.
It's so easy to be, like, I'm again, not justifying bad actions, but I'm just saying, again, man shouldn't hit people. People shouldn't do bad things. I'm not advocating bad things. But it's so easy to be like, he's hitting me, or he's a jerk, or she's a bee, da-da-da.
Yeah.
And that is so much easier than being like, cool, why am I here?
Right.
How am I contributing this?
Like,
and then actually doing this is harder than being like, so so that was interesting. So thank you for realizing I was an a-hole. So thank you, because I thought I wasn't just a victim. I was like, I'm victim, Alex victim, whatever. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. And again, Kara, I want to say thank you, because your stuff is really powerful, because like where I was emotionally really like a month ago to now, like in just 1 month to make such a leap is crazy. It's really powerful stuff, because usually you need more time for change. Like you don't go to the gym and you're like, a month in I'm gonna be buff. Like that's like a delusion, right? So when I started hearing stuff, I'm like, it's gonna take time. But I'm still going to stop at that. I'm not saying I'm superhuman. Like yesterday I had my thingy validation grade fix, and then I got a validation from you. So now today I'm on validation land. I'm like, woo! great, fantastic, right, whatever, right. So I'm still enjoying it, right? But what I'm trying to say is, where I was to where I am in 1 month is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like stupid. The how fast the progress.
I mean, you focused. You've watched all my
Sure,
YouTube
no,
videos and everything.
There was hard intention.
Yeah,
like,
there was.
Yeah, like
and I mean,
for sure, and like I practice every day.
I mean,
For sure.
much of the congratulation goes back to you, and I mean,
But the tools were great.
Thank you.
Because like if I had like just do a static dance,
What's
and I
really-
did that for
yeah.
a month. Sorry,
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
against the static
Yeah,
dance.
I know.
don't want to get kicked out of Bali. If I spend
Right.
the same hours just dancing statically,
Yeah.
I don't think I would.
Yeah.
Right. So it's also
this is really nice to hear because like I've worked with people closely that are like, we do like 2 sessions a week or whatever, and I've watched the speed of, it's like you get this really fast speed out of the hole they're in, and then it's almost like they're in this place where they can kind of self-manage, and the challenges become a little bit more nuanced, right? But the big stuff really does. It's crazy how quickly it goes away once you get it on the right perspective. Yeah.
because in my head I was like, this is gonna take at least 6 months to 2 years, like because I was like, I have a bunch of stuff, man.
Yeah.
I had an interesting childhood when I had it and whatever, but it's
I mean,
it's crazy.
I've said many times now that like I really struggle to keep a client longer than 3 months. Like in 3 months, their life has usually changed, almost always. And I mean, I got one who's a little bit longer, but it's like we've had some problem like connecting, and it's like the way I see it from kind of a neurophysiological point of view is that it's 6 months. And it's like because it takes 6 months to like really rewire a neural pathway in with like a great deal of concreteness. But what you're showing me here is that like if you do the homework and you apply it every single day, it gets this feedback loop going, and you're like, wazoo. Thank you for that. It's so valuable.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, Alex, Rahel, Kirby. Oh my God, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much, both of you. I enjoyed this immensely. I hope it was fruitful for you guys.
By the way, being totally like vulnerable again, this made me feel chosen when I prioritized. So thank you.
Oh,
although I shouldn't get that from you, but I got to live.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. Just enjoy it. Enjoy
I
it.
think I should
Right.
just enjoy this. Like this.
Yeah, it's not that it's not that I need it from you, but it's just like I'm okay.
It was a great plus.
You would have been okay without it, but the fact that it happened, you're
I would have slept today because I haven't slept yet. But this is much better feeling. But I'm going to sleep now. But thank you very much. I really.
You're very welcome. Thank
really
you.
feel warm and giddy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.